last week, running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Blood moves all night right.
Oh, hello. Wow. Look, I'm totally looking the wrong way. Where am I supposed to be looking? This is an interesting, am I supposed to be looking here? Where am I looking, Mike?
Well, you know what? If you move like 6 inches to the right,
Right.
I'll be able to get your eye line right.
All right.
That is 100% on me.
Guys, sorry. Don't worry. We're only an hour and a half late so that I can come on fully on the other side of the screen. Here we go. Hi. Oh my goodness. All right. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Without a Country. Am I here? Is this camera I can look at? I don't know what's going on. We're in a different studio than we're in the main studio because we just did a pre-record. So we are late as usual. You know, guys. Time is a concept I merely subscribe to. This is the one thing that we know about me. Anyone ask what's Corinne's worst quality? It's time. It doesn't really mean a lot to me. It's not because I don't respect and value other people's time. It's because honestly, I'm very bad at math and I can't work backwards for the life of me. But anyway, we just did an incredible pre-record for next week because, like I said, I'm out of town for most of October, and I just wanted to make sure that you had meaningful content, not filler content, coming to you. And so we recorded an interview that will air next week with my friend who I've been talking to you guys a lot about, Brian Silver from Americans United. And that will be, kind of the counter conversation to the interview I did with Jackson Lawmeyer from the White House Faith Council. And so I'm really excited about that. We were just talking for like a little bit over an hour. I think that interview lasted, and it was really good and super informative. And I think we'll fill in a lot of the gaps that you guys have been, feeling and getting anxious about as we do God Watch many weeks on this show. So that's what I was doing. I was not with you, but I was working for you. I promise you. Good to be back. It was, 2 weeks off that I had pre-recorded material for you. I'm back from Japan now officially. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw that I'd still rather be there, but happy to be back in the studio doing this show. I do always love doing this show. But Japan was, besides Romania, the best place that I've ever been in my entire life. And I've been a lot of places, maybe not internationally. I've been to a lot of the US. That's no bragging rights there, though. Real quick at the top of it, next week for, my Los Angeles trip, I'll be doing Gash at the Comedy Store Wednesday, October 22nd. That show is officially sold out. So if you thought you were going to buy a last minute ticket, no, you are not. You can always try to show up at the venue at showtime. Sometimes you can get like 1 or 2 tickets at the door, but that is a real gamble. So unless you live in West Hollywood, I would not recommend doing that. But that's the story there. So excited to bring that show to you. We have such a great lineup for Gash. And then New York Comedy Festival, Friday, November 14th, Christina and I are doing the New York Comedy Festival. Guys, we fucked the 12-year anniversary of the show. We're doing a Sluts Giving show. It's the only time we're doing Guys We Fucked live together in this calendar year. And that's, we just found out, are already half sold out. And that's a pretty big venue, like several hundred, I think like the 400 seat theater. So we're already half sold out on that. And that's not until mid-November. So definitely get your tickets for that if you want to join the party. Now, let's talk about Japan. I actually took some notes. I made a pros and cons list about, because I knew everyone would want to hear about my travel to Japan. Those of you who have been there, most of you shared my sentiment about it being a really wonderful place. It was interesting because the first day and a half, I was having this feeling like, I don't think I'm going to like this, because I started by going to, just based on where I needed, like, just based on like logistics, I had to be in certain areas at certain times for my show and stuff. And so I started out by taking a walk down Takashita Street because I wanted to see maybe like, Harajuku girls or, Lolita style dress. And it was just like so chaotic. And I was like, this is exactly what I was trying to avoid by leaving America. And I was like, if all of Japan is this over commercialized, chaotic American neon sign, just, I don't know, like overwhelmingness, overstimulation, I am going to be very unhappy. So that's what I did night one, because I only had like a couple hours once we checked into our hotel. And our hotel was in a chill area. I still don't know how to say it. Chuo City, CHUO, but there's like some kind of an accent mark. So Chuo City was where my hotel was. And that was like very calm during the day, almost like giving financial district vibes, because it was much more bumping during the work week than it was on the weekends. But it was very chill. I stayed in the B&A wall art hotel there, where every single room is curated by an artist. So every room is unique from the next. And I just really loved it. It was a beautiful room. I had a vending machine filled with artist-made stickers in my room. So it was a vending machine only for me. And there were individually designed tiles on the floor, concrete walls, almost like we were living below ground in a subway station, but like the cleanest, calmest subway station ever. It was really, really cool room. After that, I stayed for one night in Shinjuku at the Godzilla Hotel, because you fucking gotta when you're in Tokyo. You gotta stay in the Godzilla room. So it's a hotel. It's the Gracery Hotel. And there's a Godzilla sticking out of the building. But then there's two rooms where there's actually like the Godzilla room. And then there's a newer room where it's, I don't know, like Godzilla versus like Mothra or something. I picked the Godzilla room though, because I'm a classic gal. I don't need creatures fighting when I'm trying to slumber. And the Godzilla room was super cool. I mean, like you press a button and like your beds shake like Godzilla's taking over. Very, very novelty. But again, you had to do it for one night. And just great merch. I got a Godzilla tissue box that, it was so big that I was like, I don't even know if I can fly home with this. But then I checked out the prices that people were reselling them for on eBay, and I go, I'm gonna make this fit, because I'm not rebuying this on eBay, because people are trying to take me for a sucker, and I'm not gonna have that. And then for the last 2 nights, we were in Kyoto, and I stayed at the what was it called, the Rankin Hotel, I think, in Kyoto. That was like more traditional Japanese, like a more traditional Japanese aesthetic. And that's what I wanted to do there. Sorry, I'm like looking up some things that I had to.
Was it the one with an artificial hot spring?
No. Where was that?
I looked up that name in Google, and it gave me 2 possible answers.
No, I'm like, maybe I'm just saying the name wrong. I'm like, where was this? Oh, sorry, it's Conra. I flipped it. I did like a dyslexic thing. It's Hotel Conra, because there's like these traditional rooms called, and I might be mispronouncing this, but like Roikins. But I couldn't find any that were available, like, or for like a normal price, or that were available for the nights that I needed. So I stayed in one that was kind of like mimicking traditional Japanese aesthetic, but was not actually Roikin, I think is how you say it, which is, yeah. Anyway, so that's where those are the hotels that I stayed at. And again, like, I think those are like middle of the road hotels, like not the most expensive hotels, but certainly not inexpensive hotels. And my argument is that Americans don't travel enough. So the airfare you can't get around it. The airfare is expensive. And just as someone who travels a lot, even though it's domestically, I do not do discount airlines for a lot of reasons. Safety certainly being one of them, but just because of the delays and the way you're treated. Like, I am fine cutting corners many places. Like, I flew Spirit Airlines once. I'm never going to fly it again. I also flew like the international equivalent of Spirit Airlines to London when we saw the Spice Girls at Wembley Stadium, and there was like a 20-hour delay, and there were ashtrays on my plane because it was made in the 1970s. And like, that's just like, as far as airlines go, I'm a Delta girly, but for Japan, I flew Japan Airways because I did a lot of research, and Japan Airways is apparently the best coach that you can get if you're flying to Japan. And I have to say, I was very pleased with Japan Airways. I mean, that's a 15-hour flight on the way there. It was like 13 hours on the way back, and really no problem. I mean, easy for me to say at 5'3.5", I understand, but I was in a middle seat in the middle section on the way there, and truly 15 hours went by really quickly. I slept a little bit. I watched 2 movies. They fed you 2 meals and a snack. And like, it was just, I don't know. It was surprisingly a very tolerable flight. All right. So here are my pros. So I went to Takashita Street the first night, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. This is a lot. I'm really overstimulated, and it takes a lot to overstimulate me. Again, like, I have no problem walking through Times Square on the reg. And then just because of how the schedule worked out, I went to Sanrio Pearl Land on the following day because it was like a half-day thing, and I had my show that night. So I was like, okay, I can take the train to Tama, where Sanrio Pearl Land is, and go there for like 3 to 4 hours, which is what I estimated it would take. And listen, I had to go. There was no way I was going all the way to Japan and not going to, basically the equivalent of Disneyland if Hello Kitty ran supreme. And that was like, to go on a Saturday was just, it was just so crazy, so chaotic, so many people, so much noise, so many lights. Again, I had fun, but I was like, if this is going to be 10 days of this same energy, I don't know if I can handle Japan. And then the show that night ended up being super fun. Again, like, it was interesting because stand-up comedy isn't really a thing yet in Japan. So you're basically introducing a country of people to a new art form, which is like really humbling. It was really cool to introduce people to something that I've been doing for, 15 years of my life and I make a living doing. And obviously, there's a language barrier there. You're doing it to people who's, half the audience, English is not their first language. And I wouldn't even say that they are fluent in English. And I know how to slow down. I have to slow down for even, tourists who come from the Midwest. But I have an extremely word-heavy set and, a pretty pop culture reference-y American set. So it was interesting to try and feel that out with an audience of Japanese people. Because the refreshing thing about Japan was that, I think we have this feeling here that either we have to hide the fact that we're from America when we travel abroad because people are going to be so disgusted by our presence that we have to lie and say we're Canadian. Or the other option would be that people, will think it's like the coolest thing that we're from America. And I would say that neither is true. There was one shop where there was kind of like cool punk rocky Japanese girls who thought it was really cool that I was from New York City. Other than that, no one fucking asked, mentioned, or cared that where the fuck I was from. And I mean, obviously, when I open my mouth, it's pretty clear that I'm either from America or Canada. And just when I say no one gave a shit, but in the best way, not in a disrespectful way, I, as a human being, felt very cared for, but and very taken care of in Japan. And when I had issues or got confused, there was always someone, whether it be someone who worked at the place or just another passerby who was willing to help me. That was so prevalent in Japan. But no one gave a shit where I was from. And again, it just reminded me how like American centric we are here, whether it be because we're self-hating or because we're way too proud of being from America. I would say both are incorrect ways to go about the world. The best way to go about it is to travel the world and remember that really no one's thinking about you. That's the thing. Like, that's a good thing to remember in life as an individual person, and a good thing to remember as an American. No one's thinking about you nearly as much as you are thinking about you. And there was such a relief in just walking around and no one giving a shit that I was there and no one giving a shit that I was American. It was lovely. Let's see. And then what did I do? So yeah, the show at Tokyo Comedy Bar, shout out, was sold out. There were multiple Japanese people who are fans of Guys We Fucked, which was like crazy to me. I also don't know how, if you're not pretty fluent in English, how you're listening to Guys We Fucked, because we constantly get feedback on that show that people think they've accidentally pressed like, the fast forward button and they're listening to us at 2 times the speed, but that's just the pace that we speak at naturally. So God bless you, whatever you're getting out of that show. Thank you so much to all the Japanese fuckers who came out.
Podcasts can auto-translate now, right?
I mean, I guess I just didn't think that they would be listening to it. Like, I mean, surely there's enough content that is in Japanese. Like, why would they, like, especially after going there and kind of realizing that they don't give a shit. I think there's this like folklore that the Japanese are obsessed with American culture. But to me, they have their very own specific and defined culture there. And while I saw traces of American culture in Japan, I didn't go there and like feel like, oh my God, they can't stop thinking about us. Like, that was not it at all.
You're telling me all their kids aren't into SpongeBob and they're not getting random words of ours tattooed on their body?
I didn't see stuff like that, honestly. No, like any characters I saw were things like Sanrio that you would associate more with Japan. I mean, not that we don't have Sanrio here. Obviously, like, we love Sanrio here too. But those were the only like characters I saw. And one of the most interesting things, and I had a little conversation with ChatGPT ahead of time about how to dress, because I wanted to make sure that I was dressing in a way that was respectful for all the temples that I would be visiting. And so I was worried about like, shorts and tank tops and that kind of a thing. Although I never worry that much, because I think it's mostly like the most offensive thing in quotes is like having just big tits all over the place. And I'm so flat chested, it doesn't really fucking matter. I could basically go with my nipples out and no one would even notice. But ChatGPT was like, oh, people only kind of like wear muted tones there. It's like very like monochrome. And I was like, oh, surely that can't be true. But then I went there, and when I tell you, everyone was only wearing black, white, tan, and navy blue, I am not shitting you. It was crazy. You would look into a sea and there would be no color. Like, I wore a red dress the first night just because like that's what I had in my suitcase, and I stuck out like a sore thumb, like Where's Waldo. It was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, like, no one was like looking at me or like judging me or whatever, but like I just thought there would be a lot more people dressed in like the Harajuku or like the Lolita style, and there were like a handful of those girls that were really coolly dressed, but overall, black, white, navy blue, tan. That's it. It was crazy.
Would you say you were more out of place in a red dress in that scenario, or me on a gondola in a Dunkin' Donuts t-shirt?
Oh my God. I don't know. I've never been to Italy, so I don't know what's going on there. I feel like they would be wearing like tacky Armani Exchange shit in Italy. No?
No, it's a lot of that same. Europe is the same way. It's all like.
Well, I mean, I've been to Europe. I just haven't been to Italy.
No, I'm just the idea of like, very, very sensible shoes, muted, a lot of khaki, a lot of tan, a lot of navy.
I don't remember it being that way in other places that I've visited. Like, it was just like really stood out. I guess also the thing that you're experiencing in Japan that even you're not experiencing in Europe is like you're just looking at the same person over and over again. There is no diversity. It is all Japanese people. Like, even like, they talk about over tourism. And so I expected to run into a lot of white people. In Kyoto, I ran into a lot of white people. In Tokyo, no. I was like, there were many times when I was the only white person in the room. Why are you guys laughing?
Nothing. Phrasing.
What?
No, Crystal also pointed out that.
What did I say?
Nothing.
Oh my God.
Crystal also pointed out that it's a big thing in Japanese culture, like humility, right? So it's like people don't necessarily want to stand out or be boisterous in a crowd in bright colors.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and there's also this Buddhist I keep forgetting the word. There's like this Buddhist understanding that you're not basically tarnishing other people with the burden of your emotions, and that's why people kind of have a very like stoic look on their face. Like even this is the one faux pas that I was doing. I kept smiling at people, and then I was like, people are not smiling back at me, and in fact looking at me like not like I'm crazy, but like they're just like not even like the upper side of their mouth is going up at all. And I was like, I gotta look this up because obviously like smiling is not a thing here. And it basically said like, yeah, if you're smiling and no one's smiling back at you, they're probably confused because they think like you must know them and they don't recognize you. And they're like, yeah, just really like the head bowing is more what you're gonna do. And I was bowing right and left to people. By the end of the trip, my back would just like naturally go down. I was saying arigato to everyone. A little konnichiwa and an arigato will get you very far in Japan. I watched so many videos, and as is human nature, a lot of the videos were like, we just want people to come across like they gave two shits and like tried to learn some words. And I tried to learn additional words beyond konnichiwa and arigato, but even small phrases were so long. I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to get these into my vocabulary. But honestly, pointing, konnichiwa, arigato, a little bowing got me very far. I was not confused at any time, nor did anyone ever like get anything I ordered incorrect. It was miraculous.
What about the numbers? Did you hit him with like a san sake?
No. Why would I need to do that?
I don't know, because it's just like it feels like an easy one to like pepper into conversation. If you can throw.
Well, we weren't having like I think there's also a misconception that people in Tokyo are a lot more fluent in English than they are. They are basically speaking like they know enough broken English to get by, but we're not having full conversations. Like all the places that I visited had laminated like mostly the food places like had laminated sheets with pictures of the items and the amount of yen that they cost, and you would just point, and like if I wanted two of the thing I would point and like say two. So it was very organized and set up to be conducive to tourism.
It's very drunk people. Like that's the same strategy Waffle House uses.
It was great. I'm telling you, it was flawless. No one made a mistake at any place that I went to. And I was so shocked because of the language barrier that we were working with. And then as far as like monetary exchanges, I pretty quickly was able to translate in my head, like, what the yen was worth in relationship to the dollar. So I was pretty fast with that. And if you're traveling, a lot of people talk about how like Japan is pretty cashless because they're so technologically advanced. They are technologically advanced. That is certainly true. A lot of the technology that you're going to see in your hotel rooms or even like in bathrooms, et cetera, is much more advanced than in the US. That being said, you need to have cash on you. You need to have yen on you. There's so many places where they only accept yen, and you're not going to be able to get by with a credit card or Apple Pay or something like that.
And did you opt for the like go to the money changer or ATM?
I didn't see a ton of ATMs, and the ATMs I did see on my American card, like you'd have to go through like three. I think I used one ATM in a supermarket one time that accepted my American card, and I had tried a couple other ones that didn't. So, but there were a ton of money exchangers around, especially because, by the temples and stuff, those are tourist areas. So even in at one point there was like a money exchanger in like a coffee shop, used those a bunch. Yeah. And then kind of used Apple Pay most other places, which is just the easiest. And then for the, I'm calling it the subway. They just like call it the train, but like basically Japan's subway. I bought a ticket the first time and then I loaded everything onto my Suica card, and that's much easier because you're using it like Apple Pay. It goes into your Apple Wallet, but it's Suica, Suica. You can just load money onto it. I think I need to put at least 1,000 yen on it to start, which is like, I don't know, like $6-7. It's not that much money. And then you can just scan it and go through much simpler. And yeah, like the subway and the bullet train, pretty easy to navigate, especially coming from New York City. It makes sense the way the subway here makes sense. Even though the subway here seems like it doesn't make sense, it actually does make sense. We just have a lot of lines. And then, all right, then I did, all right, I'm like trying to go through what I did. Okay, so then, yeah, Saturday night. And then obviously, like I had some ramen. Oh, I had shrimp tempura ramen. That was probably my favorite ramen that I had. And then did my, Shibuya crossing. You got to go to Shibuya crossing. You got to take your picture in the middle of the street. Very cool, very fun. There was a robot cafe near my hotel. The wait was really long, but we did go in just to talk to like the robot maitre d'. That was fun. And like they have a little sign showing who's running it, because it's people who have anxiety disorders or have some kind of health condition where like, they can't leave the house. And then you're talking to them through the robot. So that's pretty fun. Went to the Ueno Zoo. I know some people are anti-zoos. I have a lot of thoughts about zoos. Even though I'm pro-animal, I am actually not anti-zoo, but I'm sure I'll get messages about that. I actually think zoos do a lot of work to help rehabilitate animals and keep animals in existence that would normally go extinct. It's the oldest zoo in Japan. Then I went to Soenji Temple. There was a lot of great shopping outside that temple. Really beautiful. And it's crazy that there's this like extravagant temple in the middle of like bustling Tokyo. That to me was crazy. I thought I was going to mostly have to wait till I got to Kyoto to see these temples. But there are some pretty, you're just kind of tripping over temples in Japan. And then I went to the immersive, kind of museum experience, Team Labs Planets in Tokyo. That was highly recommended. There's stuff like that in New York, but this one is, it was highly recommended and it was very good. Very, very busy though. Everything was very crowded and you were just like, okay, I'm just gonna have to experience stuff with a ton of other people. Then I went to McDonald's and I tried the shrimp burger. It's kind of like the fillet of fish, but only with shrimp. Looks like it's going to be disgusting, actually banging. Then we were supposed to go to Mount Fuji on Monday, but it was kind of foggy. It was crazy because the forecast for like my whole trip was supposed to be rainy and it ended up basically being beautiful and sunny every single day. That being said, people were like, if you go to Mount Fuji and it's not like crystal clear, you just can't see the mountain and it's kind of not worth it. So we ended up canceling the tour that we had for Mount Fuji and going to this beach town that was recommended by the booker of Tokyo Comedy Club, this town called Kamakura, which was about an hour and a half on the subway. And I'm so glad, like I wanted to see Mount Fuji, but we kind of like saw it through the bullet train window. But I am so glad we ended up going to Kamakura. It was my favorite place we went on the trip. It was, just like this glorious beach town, kind of reminded me a little bit of like San Francisco. Great temples. They have you're going to see the Buddha. The most like famous thing that you're going to see there is the Buddha from like 1252, I think it's from. And they kind of make fun of tourists for going there and just seeing this statue and then checking it off the list of, just checking out Kamakura off their list. But this statue is truly one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my life. Like, well worth the visit. And I did so many other things there too. But I loved Kamakura. That was like just such a great town. And it's a town that the tourists haven't gotten to yet. So like there were tourists there, but not that many. And it was just like beautiful weather, beautiful shops. I had a really good pizza there. Apparently Japan has a interesting relationship with making pizza. And I just ate it out of desperation because I had been having such trouble getting food that was edible for someone who doesn't really eat meat. My boyfriend found this place and it ended up being like this place that had won all these awards and it was just gorgeous and delicious. Then Tuesday we went to Disney Sea. Again, a little theme park heavy, but I love theme parks. And there are some people who travel to Tokyo just to go to Disney Sea. Disney Sea looked more interesting to me and then had also been much more highly recommended than Tokyo Disney. It is often considered the most impressive of the Disneys, and I would have to agree with that. I've been to Disney World. I've been to Disneyland. I have not been to Euro Disney, but Disney Sea was like excellent, just like really cool. Again, a ton of people there, but I paid a little extra to get the, to pay for the fast pass slots or whatever. So not cheap, but really good. Really cool Tower of Terror with a different story than the American one. And this is the most exciting thing. And some of this I talked about on Guys We Fucked, but I'm going to go a little bit more into detail here. There is a whole cast of Disney characters that exist in Tokyo Disney and Disney Sea that do not, like, that were introduced in America but failed wildly, and so no one even knows about them. They're called Duffy and Friends. They kind of have this like Sanrio energy, but it's basically like it's Duffy is a teddy bear that I believe Minnie was supposedly like gifted Mickey before one of his travels, and it's this bear and all of its friends. And I became obsessed with this cast of characters, but so did the women of Tokyo. And let me tell you, the people of Japan are so polite, so well behaved, so quiet, so orderly. Like a little pushy, but you have to be in a place where there's like just way more people than there needs to be. But the Duffy store at Disney Sea is the only place where I saw Japanese people misbehaving. Like I went there towards the end of the day on Tuesday because you don't want to carry around your stuff all day. And let me tell you, I thought a bitch was gonna cut me. Like it was getting wild in the Duffy and Friends store. But I got my stuff. There was like limits on things. Yeah, they're so cute. They're so cute. I got the cat, Gelatoni. He's a cat who just wants to be an artist. Then there's the bunny. She just wants to dance. I mean, like, I love these characters, obsessed with them. And you can tell, like, because I saw everyone walking around with, like, stuffed animals and shirts of these guys. And I'm like, who the fuck are these characters? So I started researching and looking it up. And I'm like, why are there, like, characters that exist that I don't... obviously, they're Disney characters. And then I learned the whole story. And then by the end of the day, I was obsessed with them, too. And it was just fun to, like, learn something new. And I just like when there's, like, something new happening that I, get the, like, that it feels special and unique to the place that you are.
This is interesting.
Yeah.
So they will... sometimes the princes are too it's tough for them to find a prince that fits the build of like a classic Disney prince.
Dude, every character was so short.
So they will recruit guys from like Disney World, Disneyland, all the other Disneys.
I believe it.
People who are like, they're doing the Buzz Lightyear costume or, something that they don't necessarily love. They'll they'll say, hey, move to Japan and I'll make you Prince Eric. Mm-hmm. And there's something about working in the Disney system that becomes very high schoolish where it's like, if you get to play the lead, if you get to play Prince Eric, that might be worth moving to another continent for.
Yeah, I believe it because every character would come out and it would be like my height. Every character would be like my height or shorter, and I would be laughing so hard. Like they were just noticeably way shorter than they should be. It was making me laugh.
Everybody looks like the prince from Shrek.
Yeah, it was just tiny. And then I did go to 7-Eleven basically every day, but that's just because they had the best iced coffee in the game. They have this sweetener it's just like a gum syrup. They have this 0-calorie gum syrup that I usually don't even put any sugar or any sweetener in my coffee, but this gum syrup, when you put it in, it was so good. And like the coffee machines are actually roasting real beans. Like you put your cup in and it grinds and roasts real beans and then goes into the cup. I don't know. I mean, it was great. Everyone talks about how amazing these 7-Elevens are. I think that's overkill. I walked into these 7-Elevens thinking it was going to be like the most beautiful, clean, most bountiful place that I've ever been. And like, I think you guys just maybe haven't been going to 7-Elevens because truly they look like any 7-Eleven that I've been to, but they do have a good egg salad sandwich and they do have really good coffee. Like other than that, like it was not I don't get, like, did I go to 7-Eleven every day? Yes, but was it vastly different from any other 7-Eleven I've been to in America? No. I think you guys maybe have just been sleeping on 7-Eleven because you think you're too good for it in America. But I've been going to a 7-Eleven for years, and I always knew it had a lot to offer. And I guess that they have like some limited seating in the 7-Elevens in Japan. But again, I thought it would be like really big, like Whole Foods style seating. And it's like a couple of little things that look like grammar school desks. It's still good, but like I was definitely expecting something different than what I came across. Yeah, so that night, and then that night we stayed in the Godzilla Hotel. I went to this samurai show in Shinjuku by the Godzilla Hotel that I knew was going to be super touristy, and everyone was. It used to be a robot show, but the robot show closed, and now it's a samurai show, and it's like completely over the top. Again, like super overstimulating, song, dance, mini sketches. They stop every 10 minutes and try to. They take like 4 breaks during the show to try and sell you merch. It's hilarious. But it was, everyone on Reddit was like, this is super touristy, but it is worthwhile. And I have to agree with that assessment. Like, if you're in Shinjuku anyway, take, the 2 hours to go to the samurai restaurant and eat some sushi while, people sing and dance about Halloween for really no reason, because that has nothing to do with samurais. Really fun. And like, again, like kind of like a bunch of stuff plopped together with interesting colors and sounds that really made no sense, but was very joyful. Then at night, then in the evening, my friend Amory, who was one of the main reasons I was there to visit her. She's her husband's in the Air Force, and so she lives on a military base about an hour and a half outside Tokyo. So she took me to Koenji, which is not touristy at all. It's a place within Tokyo that there's like a rows of vintage shops. So we went to a bunch of vintage shops there. I got a cool Ren and Stimpy shirt and some like vintage rings. And then we went to Golden Guy, which is the rows of really tiny bars that fit like max 15 people in them. And specifically there was this bar I wanted to go to because of course I found a goth bar. A horror bar specifically, like horror movie themed bar called Deathmatch in Hell. And I got to go there and I was excited. And there was a little line outside, which I'm sure was like, I don't know. Because I'm like, was this based on a TikTok video? I don't think it was. I think I specifically searched horror bars and it came up. But there was a line of like, tourists who were looking to get in. But they were people who you could tell like really were obsessed with horror. And then we ate conveyor belt sushi. Then the next day, you got to go to a Don Quixote. It's like the store that's like multiple levels. I would say kind of like maybe like the Spencer's Gifts of Japan, and then some. Like if Spencer's Gifts met Target, met Walmart, just a lot of things going on. A great place for souvenirs, but they also have like luxury handbags like Louis Vuitton and Coach and stuff on the top level. Like it kind of goes from like cheapest to most expensive, and it's multiple levels, but really good place to get souvenirs. And just again, if you want your senses overwhelmed, you got to go there. Then I tried a bunch of weird snacks from 7-Eleven, did a little mukbang in my hotel room. Then we took the bullet train to Kyoto. And I had been reading all this stuff about how like they were so crazy about like luggage limits. And I was so nervous like bringing a big suitcase on there. But basically like if you can fit it either above your, because all the like I was gonna buy the room for extra luggage, but it was sold out like weeks in advance. And I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I gotta get to Kyoto, and like there's no other way to get there. Like it would take 6 hours to drive there versus like 2 hours on the bullet train. So I was like, my legs are short. I'll just sit, pretzel style in my chair and put the suitcase in front of me, and that's what I did. So if you have short legs, it's not gonna be a problem, but otherwise, you gotta get an extra luggage thing. Yes, Mike.
So I was gonna ask, did you skip Nintendo Land?
Well, Nintendo Land is a lottery, and you have to win tickets to get there.
Oh, for real?
In Kyoto, yeah. I only discovered that. First of all, I somehow missed that. Wait, are you talking about Super Nintendo World and Universal, or are you talking about the Nintendo Museum that is a lottery in Kyoto? There's 2 Nintendos.
No, I'm talking about the Nintendo theme park.
Okay, so that's in Universal, and I've already been to the one in LA 2 times, so I didn't need to go to the one in. I that's why I went to Disney Sea instead of Universal Studios, because Super Mario World is extremely impressive. But yeah, I went to the one as soon as it opened in Los Angeles, because I was like, I flew my best friend out there for his birthday because we were like so into it. It's incredibly impressive. But yeah, I didn't need to go again. But yeah, in Kyoto. So in Kyoto, I didn't make it there. This was just like a photo op, but there's the original Nintendo building that is now like a hotel, but I wanted to take like a picture outside of it. But like all these places,
the original Nintendo building from like the 1800s.
They call it the original. I don't know what the year is, but it's like, yeah, it's the no longer functioning quote unquote original Nintendo building. It is now repurposed into a hotel. That was just a photo op, but like it meant a lot to me, so I wanted to go. It was just too off the beaten path, so we didn't make it. And then there is also the Nintendo Museum with the extensive Nintendo store. That, however, you have to win a lottery to get tickets in. Even the gift shop, you're not allowed in unless you won the lottery. And right now, they're already on like January 2026 lottery tickets. So you got to plan way in advance for that if you want to get in. And that only opened like, I think in October or like pretty recently, like of last year. Like it's a really a recent thing. But I saw the people walking around with fucking Nintendo bags and I was like, ugh, I'm so mad I can't get to go. But hey, reason to go back. Then I checked into the Hotel Conra, very nice hotel. We went to Friday morning. We hadn't done any of the animal experiences because a lot of these like cafes and stuff, I read up on them and they seem like they were like the capybara cafes and stuff. It just seemed like animals were being mistreated. I just like really couldn't get past it. As much as I wanted to fucking pet a capybara, I was like, I don't think these are good circumstances. So I finally found like the Monkey Mountain. What is it? It's like Ishawata or something. I gotta find the Monkey Mountain in Kyoto. These monkeys basically have like free reign. They're not in cages. They're just kind of like in an area that it seems like basically the people of Kyoto like saw monkeys were hanging out in this area a lot and kind of like put a ticket booth in front of it and decided that they were going to feed them apples and peanuts to keep them nearby. So it seems like, and I was kind of like, I was still sus. I was like, is there like an electric fence or something to keep these monkeys here? It seemed like it was pretty free range. And like, again, like no one was touching them. No one was like, get back here, monkey. So it seemed okay. It was like the least problematic of the animal experiences that I saw. It's the Arashiyama Monkey Park, Iwatayama. And again, like they're free reign, they're climbing in trees, they're going all over. It doesn't seem like they are kept anywhere. It seems like they are coming back on their own free will because they are getting fed copious amounts of apples and peanuts, which I didn't even know monkeys liked peanuts, but apparently they do. Like, so that seemed okay. Again, I don't know. You have to hike really far up. It's like a 20, 30 minute, pretty kind of steep hike up a mountain to get there. The view is beautiful. Then we went to another temple, ate some street food, went to like this head spa because I found this spa where like the mother of head spa, which, has now moved to New York, basically like invented it and brought it to Japan here. So I went there. It was called like Pesco Pesca. And then I went to the old school area where you see the geishas, Gion in Kyoto. That was pretty cool. Played pachinko for like a second. I didn't really know how to do it. I was messing it up, so I just started playing slot machines. That was fun. But Kyoto, again, out of all the places, Kyoto, I would say, is like overrun with tourists to a point where it's like maybe I would skip it. I don't know. My boyfriend really liked Kyoto. He was like, oh, I wish I had another day there. But I felt like that was the one place where I'm like, there are too many tourists here. And over tourism definitely is an issue there. When I was leaving, I read an article that said the government had just approved upping like the tourist tax in Kyoto by 900% because they have such a tourism issue there. Like it was
tourism tax being the daily fee you pay to stay in like a hotel there.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it. The same way, like, I guess most commonly we would see that in Las Vegas here. I think that's where it stands out the most in America. But yeah, like that,
I think New York City has that.
We do,
okay.
But like there is a more prominent one in Las Vegas. Like the fee that you're gonna pay is like
resort fee.
Is more it's more noticeable in Las Vegas. And then the last day took the bullet train back to Shinagawa Station, which I recommend if you're going to go over like Tokyo Station. It's a little less crowded because these stations are like chaotic. And again, I'm coming from New York City, so I'm used to a little bit more chaos. But if you're coming from a city that doesn't have that level of traffic, you're going to probably be even a little bit more overwhelmed. And that was my trip. I mean, chock full of stuff. Loved it. Like, I feel like I did everything that I set out to do. my pros list of Japan was it's a country of people who know how to behave. They love Halloween. They love Halloween. Was not expecting that. They love cute shit. Like, it's adults who love cute shit, and it's not in a weird Disney adult way. It's just in a way. It's like, oh, we are really like we're really buttoned up most of the time, but when we let loose and let ourselves enjoy things, we really enjoy things, and I really appreciated that. I was not ogled once. And it's not just like, and I know, of course you weren't ogled, you're 40. Okay, that's not the reason. Literally, I was not ogled once, nor did I see any women being ogled. And I saw straight up sex workers in Shinjuku trying to solicit, men. There was no lack of that. Like, it was not like an overly purified culture by any means, but there was no ogling. And let me tell you, what a breath of fresh air. It was so fucking nice. And like, I'm sure there is, a hierarchy. It's certainly an extremely capitalistic country. That being said, like, there didn't feel like there was tiers of people. I didn't feel like a lot of elitism. Like, it was like that was noticeable on a day to day. I'm sure it exists. It just wasn't like noticeable. Like I guess like the class war, the way it's noticeable here was not as noticeable there. Everyone had a sense of pride in any job they did. This goes from people who were sweeping the subway station up to like the pilot of the airplane. Like, everyone seemed to really have like a pride in the work that they were doing. It did make me think a lot about capitalism and how even I have been convinced by the left that in America, capitalism is the problem. I got to tell you, a trip to Japan really made me think about capitalism on a deeper level. And I got to be honest, I don't think capitalism is the problem. I think we are the problem. Like, we as individuals, the way we navigate our lives, our lack of a sense of community, our self-importance, the way we think we're better than so many things, the way we need to be better than our neighbor, the way we are unwilling to help each other. That is the problem. Japan was capitalist with a capital C, and it was the smoothest run place I've ever been. And so, again, I'm not saying capitalism is amazing. I'm not saying many people don't suffer because of capitalism in many ways, but to blame all of America's problems on capitalism, as I often see in conversations these days, it just can't be so. I don't know, visit Japan. It just can't be so. Like, they are capitalist, and people are not going without in the same way they here. Again, I was there for 10 days. I was doing 25,000 steps a day, really going over the city, going to different parts of the city, going to different towns. I saw one homeless person the entire time. One homeless person, and he had a lot of stuff. I gotta be honest. Another thing, Japanese people know when to shut the fuck up. There was just not a lot of like sharing opinions that didn't need to be shared. I wasn't hearing a lot of other people's conversations. And I know that would make you think like, oh, they're probably really repressed. You can feel repression in a society, you can feel repression in a room. You can feel repression, when you go to a Catholic church. Like, it didn't feel repressed. It just felt like people were calm and minding their own fucking business. And it was lovely. No one was smiling, but they didn't seem sad. There was a respect for each other, but also like it wasn't boundaryless. Like when things needed to close or when things needed to get done, people advocated for themselves. Or when like someone needed, when a spot opened up on the train and there was a seat open, like people made the moves. They weren't being overly polite. People were advocating for themselves and advocating for their needs while still being respectful. Like, it was possible. I didn't meet one stupid person. And I know you're thinking, well, Corinne, you don't speak Japanese. How did you know if people were stupid or not? You can tell. Being stupid and being funny are universal. You don't need to know the language to understand either of these things. And I met several people who I know, if I spoke Japanese fluently, I know these are extremely funny people. And I also did not meet one stupid person. Not one. And I went to McDonald's 3 times because I was really having a problem getting food that was, for me as a non-meat eater, edible. But not one stupid person. And I saw stupid people, and guess what? They were white. And guess what? They weren't Americans. I really didn't run into very many Americans. My mom kind of pointed out Japan might be too sophisticated of a stop for many Americans. And also, like, we don't grow up we don't grow up encouraged to travel. So yeah, I didn't really run into very many Americans. I ran into a lot of Europeans and a lot of Australians, and annoying as hell. Annoying as hell. French, annoying. Germans, annoying. Australians, annoying. Some British people who were annoying. So it's not, I just want to say, like, I know there's like a lot of talk on the left of this, like, you know, it's like almost like in vogue to be anti-American. It's a problem with white people thinking that they own space wherever they go. That's the problem. It's not inherently American. That the common problem was just like white people thinking that they don't have to assimilate to the culture that they're in. You know, like I was whispering in Japan in public because I fucking noticed that everyone was being quiet. So I don't understand why other people wouldn't be like, "Oh, it's quiet here." Like why would you go then to a space and then be loud? I don't get it. I'm loud here, but I'm not. I was whispering regularly. I was being more quiet when I had to say something on the train. Like I didn't make it all about me. When I noticed that everyone was wearing more muted colors, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't have to, I can wear more muted colors. I have more muted colors in my, suitcase. I was like, this is not your fucking moment to stand out. Let's see. And then also, like, I didn't meet any stupid people. And also, no one at any point treated me like I was stupid, even though it would have been completely warranted. Because obviously, it was a new place. I was making mistakes. I was doing stupid things. I told a story on Guys We Fucked. I got my fucking metal Amex card stuck into a machine in the subway. The guy had to come and take the entire machine apart. Because it said card, but it meant like Metro card. And I was confused. I thought it meant credit card. But you can't pay with a credit card on this machine. So I just fucking jammed the whole machine. The guy we had to intercom someone in. Can you imagine that happening in New York City? How mad one of the MTA workers would be if they had to come and take apart a machine because a tourist jacked it up. This guy took apart the whole machine with a smile on his face and then took time to explain to me how to properly get the ticket that I needed. I was stunned. I was ready to be yelled at because honestly, I deserved it. Did not yell at me. Didn't even frown. He laughed. He was, and not in a demeaning way. He was just like, huh, no problem. Mistakes happen. It was like, there was no anxiety the whole time. Even though I was in a new country, I was in a country where I didn't understand the language. I was in a country where most people barely spoke English. Calm, no problems. No problem. I trusted everyone. I didn't think anyone was trying to take advantage of me, steal anything from me, fuck me over. Yeah, that was and no litter. Lots of signs about not littering and no litter. God, I love that. Loved that. Now the cons. No Dunkin' Donuts. That's a big con. That was a big problem for me. I looked, apparently they tried to bring Dunkin' decades ago, kind of didn't work, so it's not there anymore. They do have Taco Bell. I didn't eat at it, but they do have Taco Bell and they do have McDonald's. I know you were wondering. There was some weird sex work going on in Shinjuku that, I don't know, it just didn't look right. I had been told by a local person that a lot of these like women's bars, because they don't really have strip clubs there apparently, a lot of these women's bars where like sexy women are trying to get you in, they actually don't allow men in them anymore because a lot of men have gotten drunk, misbehaved, and then so they ended up banning all men. And I think it's a lot of like military people who made this problem. It wasn't like local Japanese men who were causing the problem. It was like military guys would go in, get drunk, and then basically abuse the women there. So Americans and other people, other assorted whites doing this. So I just felt like some of these, it felt like a little like sex trafficking, some of the sex work going on in Shinjuku. Again, this is just my assessment as an outsider, but some of that looked coerced and I was not comfortable with that, but that's just my thing. There's a lack of diversity. Obviously, we've talked about that before. Like people often say, "Oh, why is there so much racism and so much, turmoil in America?" Well, it's like we have a lot more diversity here than a lot of other places. Certainly, a lot more than Japan. There's really no diversity there. It's some white tourists. I saw like a handful of black tourists. I saw one like Muslim family who was like dressed that you could, tell that they were Muslim. That's where it ends, basically. I posted my pictures, and everyone who had been to Japan was talking about how great Japan was. And then one of my followers, who is a Black woman, was like, it's not like that for a Black woman. And I was like, I hear you. I am not saying Japan is without their problems. I certainly noticed that there was almost no people of, there was no Black people. There was no Indian people. There was no Latino people that I saw. Again, mostly white tourists, and then a handful of Black tourists I saw. Other than that, yes, no diversity. And we've talked about that on the show a lot, about how it's much easier to claim that you have a peaceful and equal society when you lack diversity. So yes, I do want to point that out. That's very clear. And one of the comics that I was working with at Tokyo Comedy Bar, he's an African comic, and he does a lot of content about how racist it is in Japan. So his name is Evans Mitsoka, I think. His first name is definitely Evans. I just met him. So I was like, if you want to follow him, Evans Masoko. It's Evans_Masoka, Musoka. Super funny, but yeah, he talks a lot about the racism as an African man living in Japan. So if you're more interested in that, I think that he would be more qualified to speak on that than me. There's also a lack of diversity in food. Everyone was like, oh, the food's so great, amazing. Anthony Bourdain loved Japan more than anybody else. It was ramen or burgers. That was all I saw. And again, I'm sure there's like Michelin star, very fancy restaurants, but you have to make reservations like 3 weeks in advance. And like, food just wasn't my priority on this trip. So I was like, I can't be scheduling a reservation. I don't know where I'm going to be in my day of exploration. But if you're just walking down the street, it's ramen or burger. Those are your two choices. There's also no trash cans anywhere, which is like crazy because there's no litter. But like if you have garbage, bring a little bag because you're going to be carrying that around with you all day. I mean, the amount of ice pop wrappers that I carried around for like 10 hours because it was pretty hot. So I was eating a lot of ice pops. Because like 7-Eleven, like they have like a lot of like ice pop carts and stuff. It just was like a good thing to eat. Let's see. Yeah, so quiet. There's so many people, but it's so quiet and it's so peaceful in public. And again, I said maybe that could speak to repression. I don't know. I'm not sure. I made a joke about suicide at the top of my comedy set, and they laughed really hard. But then I actually looked up the stats for Japan and suicide, still lower than America. And so, I know that's kind of like there's like a kind of like this trope about, maybe Asian people committing suicide at a higher rate, but like on paper, the stats don't really match up for that anymore. Like the people in the audience still thought it was really funny, but it's like statistically not super accurate anymore. And it's also, as my friend who lives there pointed out, it's super conservative. So yeah, it's really peaceful and things are really in line and really organized, but Japan is still super conservative. There was an article that came out that I can even read that Japan is basically on the brink of electing its first female prime minister. And you go, oh, how exciting. Wow, great. And then you read more into it and you go, okay, but she's super conservative. So, it's like you're to have things run in such an orderly manner. Yeah, you're going to have to give up some autonomy and some personal freedoms. Like, that's the thing. It's like, oh, we wonder why America doesn't run so smoothly. It's like, well, we have a lot more freedoms than people in other places, and that does come at a cost. And sometimes the cost is like orderliness. Yeah. And then, I think that's basically my whole assessment of it. Those are the notes that I took. Those are my thoughts on it. But I mean, I literally cried like 3 times since being back because it was just such a pleasant experience being there. I felt totally removed from America in the best way. And it was great. And it was like people who actually felt like they were being productive in their lives and who were happy and who were content and who were adding to society, not taking away, who are, making contributions to society, and who you could call on if you needed help. That's my thoughts on it. Mike, Crystal. Wait, have you guys been to Japan? Mike hasn't been to Japan. Have you been to Japan?
No, God, no.
Why'd you say God, no?
I mean, I just couldn't imagine being on a plane that long.
Oh, I thought the same thing. It was really not that bad. Well, I had already been to Israel, which is almost as long.
Yeah?
Yeah, because Israel's in Asia. So it's like 13. It's pretty long. It's like I went straight from Philly to Israel, and that was no problem. So I didn't think this was going to be a problem, and it wasn't. Okay. All right. Well, everyone wanted to hear about Japan, so hopefully you got that. Was my assessment made you want to go or made you not want to go?
Dub D's in the chat said, I met a stupid person in Japan.
A singular?
Singular, yeah.
Yeah.
Same as you, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I was just like floored. And it's something that you're not like realizing in the moment, but then you sit down and you go, wow, why did everything run so smoothly? And you go through the reasons or like the differences between your everyday life. And then you go, oh yeah, it's because I didn't run into anyone who was stupid. And then like immediately I get back, I have to, go to work to Guys We Fuck Studio on Monday, which is in the Times Square area. And literally on the way to work, I walked through 10, a sea of that included 10 homeless people and 3 people undergoing a mental health crisis. And it's not looking, I'm not, and it made me so sad. I went home and cried about it, but I'm like, I'm not mad at them. I'm not like looking down on them. I'm going like, what the fuck is wrong with our government that I'm walking through a sea of homeless people and people experiencing mental health crises? Like in Japan, like not only one homeless person, no one yelling, no one getting into arguments, no one getting into altercations, no one so much as raising their voice. Like that's crazy to go through 10 days and none of those things happening. I don't even think anyone beeped their horn loudly. And there was plenty of traffic. I don't know. Staggering. All right. That being said, oh God, let's go talk about all the things that are bad in this country. And again, I still think a lot of great things are in America, and like we have the freedom to pursue things and self-expression in ways that other countries don't. So I will always be grateful for that. And my friend who lives in Japan said, living in Japan, I love it. I think it's a magical place. But she said it really makes me appreciate the freedoms that we have in America. So please, don't I never want anything I say to be like a fuck you America. In fact, I found it so interesting as someone who had run for office going through Japan, because it should be a prerequisite for anyone running for office in America or any other place to visit other places and basically borrow ideas from culture to see how our government and our societies could be running more smoothly. And I think the bottom line in having America run better is treating each other with more respect and creating work environments where you're paid a reasonable living wage, so you can no matter what it is you do, whether it's just a job or truly a career, you can take pride in what you do. You will do a better job and you will be happier and all of society will be better. But I already believed that, but that it's just interesting to go to Japan and actually see that, at work. And, I often talk about how I consider myself to have had an Asian upbringing. So a lot of the things happening in Japan just really resonated with me. Like a lot of the way the people, were going about their lives. I was like, this just makes sense to me. Like I was raised in a pretty, like a strict household, but when it was time to have fun, it was time to have fun. But like complaining or like saying I wasn't going to like do something just because I didn't feel like it, like that wasn't on the table. Just never even crossed my mind. And it's not like I'm someone who can't advocate for herself. So it didn't stunt me of that growth. So my enemy of the state this week, going right into it, is ICE. I'm just like, every single day ICE does something so dastardly that you go, how this is going to be just generations and generations of trauma are being created right now. And it's
Enemy
of the state.
Really despicable. And this article comes from AP News. ICE's use of full body restraints during deportations raises concerns over inhumane treatment. And there's a visual that is, I mean, this person is strapped up so much they look like a mermaid during COVID, like, which I know sounds funny, but it's really, really terrible. The Nigerian man described being roused with other detainees in September in the middle of the night. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers clasped shackles on their hands and feet, he said, and told them they were being sent to Ghana, even though none of them was from there. When they asked to speak to their attorney, he said the officers refused and straitjacketed the already shackled men in full body restraints suits called the wrap, then loaded them onto a plane for the 16-hour flight to West Africa. So if you thought, sitting in a middle seat to Japan for 15 hours was bad, Mike, how about sitting in a straitjacket and shackles for 16 hours on a flight to West Africa when you're not even from there?
It's got to be good for compression.
You've never even been there. Oh, always looking on the bright side. Referred to as the burrito or the bag, the wrap has become a harrowing part of deportation for some immigrants. It was just like a kidnap.
That's wild.
What?
Just the visual of it?
Yeah, I know. I said that.
It's Hannibal Lecter-ish.
Mm-hmm. It was just like a kidnapping. The Nigerian man, who's part of a federal lawsuit, told the Associated Press in an interview from the detainment camp in which he and the other deportees were being held in Ghana. Like others placed in the restraints interviewed by the AP, he spoke on the condition of anonymity for fear of reprisals. The AP identified multiple examples of ICE using the black and yellow full body restraint device, the wrap, in deportations. Its use was described to the AP by 5 people who said that they were restrained in the device, sometimes for hours, on ICE deportation flights dating to 2020. And witnesses and family members in 4 countries told the AP about its use on at least 7 other people this year. Fun. The AP found ICE has used the device despite internal concerns voiced in a 2023 report by the Civil Rights Division of its parent agency, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, in part due to reports of deaths involving use of the wrap by local law enforcement. And the AP has identified a dozen fatal cases in the last decade where local police or jailers around the U.S. used the wrap, and autopsies determined restraint played a role in the death. The wrap is the subject of a growing number of federal lawsuits likening incorrect usage of the device to punishment and even torture, whether used in a jail or by immigration authorities during international flights. Among advocates' concerns is that ICE is not tracking the wrap's use as required by federal law when officers use force. DHS has paid Safe Restraints Incorporated, the wrap's California-based maker, $268,523 since it started purchasing the devices in late 2015 during the Obama administration. Government purchasing records show the 2 Trump administrations have been responsible for about 91% of that spending. ICE would not provide AP with records documenting its use of the wrap despite multiple requests, and it's not clear how frequently it has been used in the current and prior administrations. The wrap's manufacturer says it intended the device to be a lifesaver for law enforcement confronting erratic people who were physically attacking officers or harming themselves. But ICE officials have a much lower threshold for deploying the wrap than the manufacturer advises, the AP found. Detainees interviewed by the AP said ICE officers used the restraints on them after they had been shackled. They said this was done to intimidate or punish them for asking to speak to their attorneys or expressing fear at being deported, often to places they fled due to violence and torture. The West African deportee described a terrifying hours-long experience that left his legs swollen to the point where he walked with a limp. They bundled me and my colleagues, he said, tied us up in a straitjacket. ICE and DHS would not answer detailed questions from the AP and refused a request for the government's policy for when and how to use the wrap. The use of restraints on detainees during deportation flights has been long-standing standard ICE protocol and an essential measure to ensure the safety and well-being of both detainees and the officers/agents accompanying them. Tricia McLaughlin, DHS's spokesperson, said in an email to AP. Our practices align with those followed by other relevant authorities and is fully in line with established legal standards. The agency would not specify those authorities or describe its practices. The use of these devices is inhumane and incompatible with our nation's fundamental values, said Noah Barron, an attorney for the West African deportees. Charles Hammond, CEO of Safe Restraints Incorporated, said his company has made a modified version of the device for ICE with changes meant to allow people to be kept in it during flights and long bus trips. ICE's version.
Thank you for that innovation.
No, I know. I'm just like, how much money? Someone's making a shitload of money off this. And you just got to follow where that money is. ICE's version includes a ring on the front of the suit. Excuse me, that allows a subject's cuffed hands to be attached while still allowing for limited use to eat and drink, he said. In addition, the ICE version has soft elbow cuffs, Hammond said, which connect in the back so a person can move for proper circulation but can't flip an elbow out to hit someone. An AP reporter recounted for Hammond some of the allegations made by people who had been placed in the wrap for long flights. All of those interviewed by AP said their hands and feet were already restrained by chains, all denied fighting with officers, saying that they were either crying or pleading against their deportation to countries they deemed dangerous. Hammond said that if true, that some people were not being violent and simply protesting verbally, putting them in the wrap could be improper use. That's not the purpose of the wrap. If the deportee is a current or potential risk to themselves, to officers, to staff, to the plane, restraints are justified. If not, then restraints aren't. And I mean, probably, if you live in America, you've probably also seen people, maybe get zip tied on a flight. I don't know. I had someone acting that almost got the cops called them on my flight home from Japan. And I know everyone goes, was it a white person? No, it was actually a Japanese person. Please help me. Juan Antonio Pineda said he was put into a bag in late September and driven by immigration officers to the Mexico border.
Whoa, dude, calling it the burrito now even seems way more racist.
Yeah, it also just sounds like something like whimsical that you would call like to a child or a dog when you're going to wrap them up in blankets, and it's not at all that.
I'm going to burrito you all the way to Ghana.
Oh, my God. It was black with yellow stripes and had straps that immobilized his body and connected over his shoulders. The wrap. Pineda, who is from El Salvador, was in the U.S. legally, he said in a video from an ICE detention center in Arizona. On September 3rd, he went to an appointment in Maryland to get permission for another year. His wife, Xiomara Ochoa, said in an interview from El Salvador. Instead, he was detained by ICE and told he'd be deported back to Mexico. But the documents he was shown had someone else's name, he said. Even so, he was sent to the Florence Service Processing Center detention facility in Arizona. So they're just being racist while being racist. They're deporting people and then also going, Mexican, El Salvadorian, same thing. Great. Early morning on Wednesday, September 24th, he said officers tied his hands and legs, placed him into the bag, and drove him 4 hours to the border. I mean, this is like the Paris Hilton school at this point. When he refused to sign the deportation papers, Pineda alleges officers broke his right arm. Oh my God. And gave him a black eye before driving him back another 4 hours in the bag. The AP was unable to independently confirm how he was injured. Pineda's video shows him with a cast on his arm and bruising on his face. The next day, Thursday, September 25th, they tied him up again, put him in the bag, and drove him to the border, where Mexican immigration officials turned him away, he said. 8 hours there and back, and they don't give me food or water or anything, he said in the video, which his wife shared with the AP. Please help me. He was ultimately deported to Mexico, Ochoa said. ICE did not respond to multiple requests for comment from the AP regarding Pineda's case. In addition to the Nigerian man flown to Ghana, 4 others interviewed by AP said they were placed in the wrap and carried onto deportation flights since the first Trump administration. As U.S. immigration officials move aggressively to meet the president's deportation goals, advocates and attorneys for immigrants are echoing the concerns of the government's own civil rights inquiry that ICE officers aren't trained on how to use the restraints. This should be a last resort type of restraint after they've already tried other things, said Fatma Maroof, a Texas A&M law professor who has sued ICE over its use of the device. Just being bound up like that can inflict a lot of psychological harm. Some deportees said that they were left in the wrap for an entire flight. A lawsuit filed on behalf of the Nigerian man and 4 others currently detained in Dima Camp, Ghana, include the allegation from one that ICE left the restraint suit on him for 16 hours, only once undoing the lower part so he could use the bathroom. No one should be put into a wrap. I don't even think they strap animals like that, recalled a man who said he suffered a concussion and dislocated jaw being placed into the device in 2023 before a deportation flight to Cape Verde, an African island nation. AP's review of his medical records confirmed he suffered those injuries in 2023. It was the most painful thing I've been through, said the man, adding he was restrained most of the 10-hour flight. Forget the assault, forget the broken jaw, just the wrap itself was hurtful. Also, the man said the metal ring his cuffed hands were attached to, one of the ICE modifications to the wrap designed to increase comfort, injured him. When they slammed me face forward on the floor, that metal ring dug into my chest, causing me bruising and pain, which was part of my injuries that I complained about. ICE's current use of the wrap comes amid an unprecedented wave of masked federal immigration officers grabbing suspected immigrants off the street and mounting accusations that the Trump administration has dehumanized them, including by subjecting them to cruel and unusual detention conditions. ICE's use of the wrap has continued despite a 2023 report by DHS's Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties that raised serious concerns over the lack of policies governing its use. ICE agreed with the internal findings on some points, and then DHS official involved in the review said, but challenged the notion that the wrap should be classified as a 4-point restraint, a designation that would place more limitations on its use. The person spoke on the condition of anonymity because they weren't authorized to discuss the inquiry. DHS largely dismantled the office that produced the 2023 report earlier this year amid widespread government firings, calling it a roadblock to enforcement operations. Without changes to the current training and the lack of policy, CRCL has serious concerns about ICE's continued use of the wrap, wrote the report's authors, who cited a news article mentioning lawsuits claiming the device had led to deaths. Last year, police officers in Virginia Beach, Virginia, placed Rollin Hill in the wrap, saying he was being combative during an arrest at a convenience store. The officers left Hill in the device when they dropped him at the jail. Video from the jail shows deputies punching the wrap immobilized Hill in the head and back. Hill died in a hospital, and while the wrap's exact role is unknown, Hill's death was ruled a homicide by positional and mechanical asphyxia due to restraint with neck and torso compression. 3 of the deputies are now charged with his murder, and 5 were removed from their jobs. Also last year in Missouri, prosecutors charged 5 jailers in the death of Othel Moore Jr., who, according to an autopsy, asphyxiated in the wrap. Jailhouse footage showed Moore, who'd also been sprayed with tear gas and placed in a spit mask covering his face, repeatedly told officers that he could not breathe. AP identified many of the other non-ICE cases involving the wrap during an investigation into death after police...
That's the guy who was putting the spit wrap in the... That picture is what that scene you were just describing.
I know, yeah.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a very, I'm not good with taking the words and making a picture in my brain. But then seeing what that actually looks like in practice.
Yeah.
It's like something out of Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, it's fucked up as hell. It's crazy.
Oh, Lord.
AP identified many of the other non-ICE cases involving the wrap during an investigation into deaths after police subdued people with common tactics that, unlike guns, are meant to stop someone without killing them. While Hammond insists the rap has never been determined as the cause of death when used properly, I mean, that's a big, but though. When used properly, okay, are you using it properly? We all know a common problem with police is that they're doing things they're doing things under duress. They're doing things, with fear being the main motivator. They're not getting enough training. They're not, they're on a power trip. Like, it's fucking crazy. So it's like, maybe in theory, when you're calmly wrapping someone in it, it's going to go well, but that's not exactly how it's going to go down when you're really executing it in real life. The AP identified 43 times in which the rap was used by police or correctional officers in a case in which someone died. In 12 of those cases, the official autopsy determined that restraint played some role in the death. It was often impossible to determine the exact role the rap may have played, as deaths often involved the use of other potentially dangerous force on people who, in several cases, were high on methamphetamine. The rap first appeared in law enforcement in the late 1990s, presented as an alternative to tying a subject's hands and feet together in a practice known as hog tying. It first found widespread use in California jails and today is used by more than 1,800 departments and facilities around the country, according to the manufacturer, which says it has sold more than 10,000 devices. Many of these cases...
Can just regular people buy this?
I don't know. Look on eBay. What are you using it for, Mike?
Well, they said it's used in place of hog tying, which is pretty common at, a lot of underground clubs in New York City. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering if this has, uses in the private space.
Leave it to a man to find one of ICE's torture devices to be a sexual item that you can use.
I mean, I want to look into it.
Okay. Well, you look into it, you get back to me. Many of these cases have drawn little media attention, such as the 2020 case of Alberto Pena, who was jailed on a misdemeanor criminal mischief charge after getting drunk and damaging the walls and doors at his parents' home outside Rio Grande City, Texas. The 30-year-old became erratic on the way to the Starr County Jail, beating his own head against the inside of the patrol unit and later at the wall of his cell. Deputies placed Pena in the wrap for more than 2 hours, where he repeatedly cried out for help and complained he could not breathe. But he was left unattended in the device for significant periods of time, court records show, and no medical attention was provided for his self-inflicted head injuries. An autopsy ruled Pena's death accidental, but a forensic pathologist hired by the family attributed Pena's death in part to the rap's prolonged restraint and said it could have been averted with proper medical care. The rap should never have been used in this situation. It was a medical emergency and he should have been taken to the hospital, said Natasha Powers Maracus, a former police officer and use of force expert who reviewed the case on behalf of Pena's family as part of their wrongful death lawsuit against the county and officers who placed him in the device. The arresting officers had been told Pena suffered from bipolar disorder. The Starr County Sheriff's Office has denied wrongdoing and maintained Pena did not require medical care. Robert Drinkard, an attorney for the county, told AP the use of the rap was neither improper nor caused Mr. Pena's tragic death. He added that each deputy involved in placing Pena in the rap had been trained in its application. A federal judge recently dismissed the Pena family's lawsuit, ruling the deputies were shielded from liability. In the context of an ICE deportation flight, the use of restraints like the rap can be justified, Hammond, the manufacturer's CEO, argues. ICE officers have to ensure that they secure anyone who could pose a flight risk on a long flight, he said. Given the high stakes of a violent confrontation on an airplane, Hammond believes cases like those described to the AP can warrant the rap's use, even if a person is already in chains. However, properly trained agents are supposed to loosen the straps and allow enough movement so the subject can eat and drink as well as use the bathroom. With the rap, when it is used properly, it's a shorter fight, which is good for everybody. It prioritizes breathing, which is good for everybody, and you have no more fight and can provide medical care or mental health care or de-escalation efforts, Hammond said. What I love about any type of authoritative role in America is that we always talk about de-escalation, but I've never really seen it used. Those placed in one
Is
of
de-escalation in the room with us now?
right, like I've never, like how many times, like like at protests, like I've seen, in New York, I've seen people get arrested a lot, and for minor things, like hop in the subway turnstiles. I've literally never seen de-escalation used. It's just always seems to be more escalated than needs to be for something that you're like wasn't that big of a deal to begin with.
Yeah, I can at least respect the Trump administration changing the Department of Defense to the Department of War, because it's very rarely, you know what I mean? We haven't defended our shores since 1812. You know what I mean?
All right.
Like it's like that same thing of like, oh yeah, these are de-escalation tactics that we use, and it's a tank driving through a town.
Yeah, you're like, okay, wow, I feel de-escalated. I feel peaceful. I feel calmer. Those placed in one of Hammond's restraint suits, however, recount the experience as traumatic. One of these people was first put into 5-point shackles when he became dizzy and tripped while ascending the stairs to board the ICE flight to Cameroon in November 2020. The officer mistook his stumbling as resistance, he said. Immediately, camouflage-clad ICE officers quickly pushed him to the tarmac and onto a RAP device, he said. Well, the amount of cop and ICE footage that I've seen where people are just all of a sudden getting fucking whacked in the back, kicked in the head, like kicked in the body. You're like, why is this even on the table as something we're doing? Like, I just don't think it doesn't seem. It doesn't seem in a civilized society, like if these are the people who are supposed to serve and protect, even if they are trying to detain someone who has quote unquote done something wrong, I just don't think kicking someone in the head is really ever a tactic that we should be using at all. And it's like, why are we not using things like stun guns and or sedating someone with a syringe? I don't understand the kicking. That's fucking crazy to me. It's crazy every time I see it. Soon he felt the straps cinching around his legs and upper body. They bundled me like a log of wood from all sides, and they were just carrying me like a corpse, he said. Another man interviewed by the AP said ICE officers put him in the RAP after he initially resisted efforts to move him onto a deportation flight in Alexandria, Louisiana in 2020. He'd fled political violence and persecution in his native Cameroon and was afraid to go back. He said officers took him out of his cell in front of the other detainees and put him in the RAP, leaving him for hours in view of the others as a warning to them not to speak up. I told him I can't breathe, the man said. He responded, I don't care. I'm doing my job. Oh, well, fun. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. All right. Quick shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for being here. As I said, there was a little gap when I pre-recorded, so apologies if you did not get your shout out in a timely manner. All hail to our dictator, Christopher Fungi. Thank you so much for leading us into the direction of greatness. And hello to all my capitalist pigs, and hello to my cuties, most specifically our newest cutie, Claire Egolf. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys want to help contribute to this show, you can contribute for as little as $6 a month. You're going to head over to patreon.com/withoutacountry. We appreciate the support, and that gets you shout out. And of course, it also gets you a weekly bonus video news story. So thank you so much for all the patrons who are already on the list, on the VIP list, and we look forward to more of you coming into our lives. This is a story about I didn't even know that we listed passports, from most powerful to least powerful. But Crystal pointed out right before we came into the studio to record that the U.S. passport has dropped. It's dropped out of the top 10 list of most powerful passports for the first time. And here's why. This is from Time. A decade ago, the United States passport was seen as the most powerful in the world by the Henley Passport Index, which ranks nations based on the number of destinations a traveler can visit without needing a visa. In 2025, however, the U.S. passport has fallen from grace, dropping out of the top 10 most powerful passports globally for the first time in 20 years. The U.S. passport dropped from 7th place in 2024 and is now tied with Malaysia for 12th place, with 180 countries a traveler can enter without a visa. 3 East Asian countries now top the list of the most powerful passports, with Singapore, South Korea, and Japan having visa-free access to 193, 190, and 189 countries, respectively. Germany, Luxembourg, and Italy are all tied for 4th place. There are several reasons why the U.S. has experienced a rapid decline, most of which are related to the Trump administration's strict new immigration guidelines. The declining strength of the U.S. passport over the past decade is more than just a reshuffle in rankings. It signals a fundamental shift in global mobility and soft power dynamics, Chairman of Henley and Partners Christian Kalin said in a statement. Nations that embrace openness and cooperation are surging ahead, and while those resting on past privileges are being left behind. And I mean, again, after that, long assessment of Japan that I did at the beginning of this show, that makes perfect sense that Japan would find itself in the top 3 as a nation that embraces openness and specifically cooperation, ahead of someplace like America that, yes, resting on past privileges. The report cites Annie Forsheimer, senior associate at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington, who said of the drop, even before a second Trump presidency, U.S. policy had turned inward. That isolationist mindset is now being reflected in America's loss of passport power. She noted that a series of legal and questionably legal barriers to travel and temporary residence have raised red flags for travelers, and that Trump's mass deportations, there's a word missing here, but has fucked us over. I'm going to fill it in. Henley and Partners, a firm that specializes in helping families with citizenship and residence, cited a lack of visa reciprocity as a primary reason why countries fall down the rankings. It notes that American passport holders can currently access 180 destinations visa-free, but the U.S. itself only allows 46 other nationalities to enter without a visa. In April, Brazil ended visa-free travel for citizens of the U.S., Canada, and Australia, citing a lack of reciprocity. It also notes, rising costs of visas in the U.S. as the cost of the Electronic System for Travel Authorization, ESTA, nearly doubled on September 30th, 2025, from $21 to $40. Changes made by other countries pushed the U.S. further down, including expanded visa exemptions by China, which benefited many European nations included in the top 10, including Germany and France, but excluded the U.S. changes in Papua New Guinea and Myanmar. Also moved rankings, as did Somalia's introduction of a new e-visa system this year. It also found an unprecedented surge in Americans seeking alternative residences and citizenship options, noting that by the end of the third quarter of 2025, there had already been a 67% increase in applications from U.S. nationals compared to the total for 2024. The final blow, Henley says, was Vietnam's exclusion of the U.S. from its recently released visa-free list. The United Kingdom also dropped to its lowest ever spot, though it remained in the top 10 at 8th place. So that's fun. We're just doing great. Everyone loves us. Everyone's thinking about us all the time.
We're also dragging our allies down. That's good to know.
Wow, it's a team effort, baby. All right. Well, obviously the biggest story of the week is the ceasefire. You know, I really wasn't like reading a ton of news while I was gone, and then I came back and I was like, what kind of happened? Obviously, like I knew about the ceasefire. And I mean, what are you guys' thoughts? Like, do we think this is actually going to hold? You know, it's been, I guess, more days of ceasefire than we've seen throughout this, I
Yeah,
guess.
but people are still dying.
Yeah, people are still dying, for sure. I mean, Hamas also executed a bunch of people in the middle of the street, like in the past 24 hours. So that also happened.
This is why, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's a ceasefire. I don't know. Like the thing that I was reading today that really kind of, got right under my skin was this is essentially the deal Biden had on the table a year ago or something like that. And instead, there was some closed door meetings to keep this thing going on a little longer. Maybe a couple people don't need to face any kind of criminal charges while a war is going on. And a lot more money can change hands if we keep this thing going for another year. And then they came to the table and signed. Literally, if you look at everything in this deal, it's the exact bones of the Biden deal that was on the table a year ago. So
that's pretty disgusting.
It just doesn't feel good at all. None of this really feels like a win. And I think the most telling thing, right, and this is something that I guess would be pro-Israeli in a way or can be seen as such, but the discussion with all of the hostages who were returned being male and it being like, how badly were the women who were their captives treated where they simply could not return them? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean. Yeah.
That part is, that part's pretty gross. I don't know. All of it's bad. Really is my big takeaway, but hopefully. Yeah,
and it's hard because obviously I understand why people are furious with Israel, but these hostages being returned are still people, and imagine you survive a 2+ year hostage situation. What an incredible feat. I mean, I can't imagine the mental and physical trauma that these individuals have been through, and then it's apart from your own people, no one even gives a shit. It's really kind of disgusting. I feel really bad for these people. What?
Conducting drones. They're still conducting drone strikes in Gaza as of 2 hours ago.
Oh, are they now? That's good. That's good. What so what is That's why I'm like, is this ceasefire actually happening? Drone strikes. Great. So how can they then claim that they are still but are they still maintaining that it's a ceasefire? Yeah, so following recent ceasefires, reports from October 2025 indicate multiple drone strikes in violation of the agreements, primarily in Gaza and southern Lebanon. The legality and precise condition of such attacks are often disputed as they operate under complex and evolving frameworks of the international law. What news source were you reading this from?
Al
Jazeera, yeah. Because even the Times of Israel, troops fired at Gazan suspects who approached them after crossing ceasefire. IDF troops fired.
I mean, I did see something, I think the day after it was announced, a journalist was killed.
Yeah.
And then somebody hopped on and is like, they were... I don't know. Some official site was talking about it as a win for Israel, and people were pointing out that the day a ceasefire was announced, they were literally celebrating the death of a journalist. Yeah. So it's I don't know if it's not still a safe place for journalists. How can I trust anything coming out of there?
Well, yeah, I mean, one day ago, you have the headline from Al Jazeera: Gaza ceasefire tested as Israeli forces kill 5 Palestinians. And then 3 hours ago, updates: Israel accused of new war crimes as it kills more Gaza civilians. So 2 hours ago, Gaza ceasefire fears as Israel demands return of all captives' bodies. So I guess that's what I did read something, and again, it's always coming from the wording has changed depending on where you're, taking the information from. But I did read something earlier today that, Israel was kind of basically threatening hey, if you don't return all these hostage bodies, then we're not making good on this agreement. But this is what always fucking happens. How many days has this ceasefire even been in effect? I lost a little bit of track of time because of being away, but can we even have these last a week?
I believe Trump made the announcement that it was official on Sunday. So this is saying significant ceasefire dates include October 10th as the end of the war in Gaza. So yeah, October 10th is the date they're giving. So 5 days ago.
Wild. Because I'm always hesitant to even say a ceasefire, because how many times have we been close to thinking that there was a ceasefire? I mean, this was a little different because some of the hostages actually were returned. So you actually think, okay, maybe there is some movement here.
Well,
maybe
they said this was the rest of the hostages, no? These were all the living hostages were returned.
That was the deal, that we were going to return all the living hostages. And then which is why it's okay, so now what is happening? Were they supposed to return the bodies too? Or is Israel now just adding on something else that was not in the original agreement, which is the bodies of people who are dead hostages? That's what I'm unclear on. I don't know the actual wording of what they agreed on initially, because it seems like someone's changing something that was agreed on, and I just don't know who it is.
The final 20 living hostages were released on the 13th.
So they're okay.
But Israel was getting annoyed with how long Hamas was taking to return the remains of some other people.
Okay.
And Hamas was trying to say it's really difficult to get the remains out of these decimated buildings in Gaza.
Okay. Well, fair argument. So I mean, is Hamas also arguing that Israel killed some of its own hostages? Is that, I mean, I would imagine they must have, right? Or no? It seems almost with the amount of destruction that went on in Gaza, it would almost seem impossible that some of the hostages weren't killed by the IDF themselves. Your mic is out, I think.
I don't know if that's precisely what they're saying, but at the end of the day, if they were held in a place that
right.
They had already died and that place has now been bombed, it's well, I don't know, man. We weren't really planning on going into the rubble for that person.
Right. It's we're not carrying around dead bodies until you decide to, sign a deal. Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so during the first phase, Hamas releases 33 Israeli detainees, living or dead, including women, civilians, and soldiers, children on the age of 19, other than soldiers, the elderly, and wounded civilians in exchange for numbers of prisoners in Israeli prisons, detention centers, according to the following schedule.
So that's in this most recent round?
No. So it's saying that there was less than 33 detainees released. So it's saying that there's 33 detainees, Israeli detainees, living or dead. They all had to come back as part of the first phase of the deal.
Okay, so living or dead. So that was the language that was agreed upon. Got it. Okay. But it seems why, if they knew that they couldn't get the bodies, then why wouldn't they just say, yo, we're not going to be able to get some of these bodies?
Well, I mean, it could be, okay, Hamas returned 20 living hostages, so that means that there's 13 unaccounted for.
Uh-huh.
The argument could then be made, hey, we're looking for them, but you kind of blew up a lot of this place.
Right. Absolutely. And so as Mike, as you pointed out, Trump's been going on an Israeli press tour. Do you have any favorite moments from this Israeli press tour?
Oh, definitely when Mike Huckabee and the other guy who was he's a former U.S. ambassador to Israel, singing "Sweet Home Yerushalayim,"
to the tune of "Sweet Home Alabama."
Oh yeah,
are you serious?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, that's I think my favorite moment of all time. It's right up there with Javier Milei throwing a rock concert that he himself was the front man of to celebrate the United States sending them a $20 billion bailout.
Oh, it's painful. This is causing me physical pain. Okay.
Yeah, no, I know. Our government has really been upsetting me lately. And it doesn't even exist. It's not even a real government right now.
Well, it's shut down, yeah.
We checked on the C-SPAN cam earlier today for one of the shows that I did. They are not doing a damn thing out there. They have the posture of a government that's shut down.
Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, this is, going on with, Trump. I saw a lot of people who are super pro-Israel online, being like, I knew Trump would do it. Daddy Trump, yay, go Trump. And so this article is from Vox, again, super far left. Did Trump make the Gaza ceasefire happen? Trump played a part, but there are also broader reasons why it happened now. And I mean, like, ... Did it happen? Is it really happening? We don't fucking know. This is by Andrew Prokop from today, October 15th. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas is still new and fragile, but the arguments over who should get credit for it or who should be blamed for it taking so long to achieve are already heated. Was recent pressure from President Donald Trump on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu decisive, or was it Trump's support for Netanyahu's resumption of the war earlier this year that mattered because it forced Hamas to concede more? Alternatively, has Hamas been completely willing to make a deal like this for a year or more, meaning Israel was the main holdout? Or did newly intense pressure on Hamas from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey in recent days spur the group into making new concessions? Does the new ceasefire implicate President Joe Biden for not pushing Netanyahu hard enough? Or is the result functionally the same as the ceasefire reached in January while Biden was still in office, which would mean Israel's resumption of the war in March with Trump's backing wrecked that previous deal for no good reason? All these dueling interpretations are floating around, pushed by people with different partisan, national, and ideological sympathies. But if you look closely, there are some areas of overlap in these narratives and some revealing discrepancies. Both Hamas and Netanyahu shifted on key points. For 2 long years, intermittent ceasefire talks have failed or have eventually fallen apart due to the inability of Israel and Hamas to agree on the timing and substance of several issues. When would Israel withdraw troops and truly agree to end the war? When would Hamas return the hostages, and in return for which Palestinian prisoners held by Israel? What would a post-war Gaza look like, and who would Hamas agree to disarm and relinquish power to others? Netanyahu's critics claim that he was the one who repeatedly rejected or sabotaged efforts to end the war. Hamas, they argue, has long been willing to return its remaining hostages in return for Israel ending the war, but Israel kept refusing for 2 long years in favor of further attacks and immense suffering for Gazan civilians. This was, they say, at least in part because Netanyahu faced domestic pressure from his far-right coalition partners who could remove him from power, and because he faced personal legal jeopardy if he was removed from office. According to this viewpoint, Netanyahu would only agree to end the war if a more powerful party, the United States, essentially forced him. Netanyahu's defenders, meanwhile, have argued that the war was meant to ensure nothing like the horrors of October 7th could happen again, and therefore ultimately served Israel's best interests. Crucial to this, they have said, was removing Hamas from power and disarming the group. Unless that goal was achieved, they insisted there could be no acceptable peace. It was Hamas that kept refusing to accept this, and only military degradation and defeat, as well as the weakening of its backers abroad, namely Iran and Hezbollah, would compel Hamas to compromise. Though these narratives differ in emphasis, moral valence, and blame casting, they essentially agree on the core point, that the war continued for so long primarily because Netanyahu hoped further Israeli military force in Gaza and elsewhere could push Hamas to make greater concessions or defeat them entirely. Ending the war required either Netanyahu or Hamas or both to shift. And leading up to the ceasefire deal, both did shift. Hamas agreed to release all remaining living hostages without a timeline for a full Israeli troop withdrawal, something the group had long been deeply reluctant to do. They made good on that promise. The hostages have been freed, but only after a partial Israeli troop withdrawal. Israeli forces still control about 53% of Gaza. Further phases of the peace deal call for them to pull back further. Netanyahu, meanwhile, agreed to the ceasefire even though Hamas has not been fully defeated. And despite his deep skepticism that Hamas will actually disarm and hand over power, as the deal stipulates, Indeed, Hamas's acceptance of the deal contains several caveats, and this week's scenes of Hamas fighters publicly executing purported collaborators in Gaza City have deepened doubts about the group's commitment to disarmament. Why did Netanyahu shift? Multiple reports suggest that a crucial turning point in negotiations was Israel's unsuccessful attack on Hamas negotiators in Qatar last month, which seems to have shaken up the dynamic of the war. Before then, Netanyahu had kept expanding the war with bold operations across the region, seemingly with success after success. The killing of a Hamas leader in Iran, the pager attacks and strikes against Hezbollah, and the 12-day war against Iran this June. But the Qatar strike signaled an end to this run of success. It failed to kill its targets and only succeeded in absolutely infuriating Qatar, other Gulf nations, and, most importantly, Trump. 8 months earlier, during the transition from the Biden administration, Trump played a role in crafting what turned out to be a short-lived ceasefire deal. Then, when Netanyahu abandoned the ceasefire in March, Trump backed him, giving him free rein and even joining in on Israel's attack on Iran. It turned out, though, that the Qatar strike went too far for Trump, given his good relations with the Gulf nations and interests, both diplomatic and financial, in the region. Rather than weaken Hamas, the attack seems to have spurred Trump to intensify his efforts to bring the war to a close. To do so, Trump turned up the heat on Netanyahu, squeezing him both publicly and privately. A source told Axios that Trump called Netanyahu and told him the Trump peace plan was take it or leave it, but that leave it means we walk away from you. This story makes Trump look bold and decisive, but was Trump truly prepared to walk away from support for Israel or its war, and was Netanyahu truly cowed by his threats? An alternative interpretation is that after 2 years of grueling war, Netanyahu and his country were ready to wrap things up. By all of those attacks leading up to last month's Qatar strike and the renewed offensive in Gaza City, Netanyahu assured Israelis, and particularly his far-right coalition partners, that he'd waged the war as aggressively as anyone could want. He can also argue that the war was, in fact, a security success, in that it killed many Hamas leaders and badly weakened the group while scoring devastating blows against Hezbollah and Iran, despite the grave damage to Israel's international reputation. Furthermore, Netanyahu's defenders argue that the new ceasefire argument is in fact better than anything Hamas previously offered because it gets the hostages back while preserving Netanyahu's flexibility to restart the war if Hamas doesn't follow through on its commitments, perhaps with help from the U.S. Trump threatened Tuesday that if Hamas doesn't disarm, we will disarm them. So, did this happen solely because Trump twisted Netanyahu's arm, or because Netanyahu was now ready to have his arm twisted? We don't know for sure, but assessing that would be crucial in trying to assess whether previous tougher pressure from President Biden would have worked to end the war much earlier. Why did Hamas shift? But Netanyahu wasn't the only one who shifted, of course. Hamas did too. Hamas's negotiating strategy had long been to insist on a complete and final end to the war before returning the remaining Israeli hostages, Jeremy Scahill of Dropsite News reports. The group believed the hostages gave them important leverage over Israel and didn't want to give that leverage up. In handling over all the hostages right away, Hamas abandoned this leverage. Indeed, the Wall Street Journal's Jared Malson and Summer Said report that Hamas was essentially coerced by Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey into accepting a deal that the group didn't want. Citing officials familiar with the discussions, the journal reported that the three nations threatened that if Hamas didn't sign on to the peace deal, Qatar and Turkey would no longer host the group's political leadership, and Egypt would stop pressing for Hamas to have a say in Gaza's post-war governance. If this report is correct, Hamas was squeezed, but they were in a position to be squeezed because the group and its allies have indeed been badly weakened by the war. The killings of top Hamas officials and many rank-and-file soldiers, as well as a great many Gazan civilians, the decimation of Hezbollah, the collapse of Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad's regime, and the Israeli strikes on Iran all sent the message that no cavalry was coming to save them, and that if they continued to hold out, things would only get worse. Hamas then agreed to relinquish the hostages and signed on to a deal that called for its own disarmament, despite misgivings. All the world will soon find out whether that deal sticks. So, it's good to know that basically everyone is like, okay, is this for real? Like, we've heard this before. Why is this happening now? Could this have happened a year ago? Should we believe this? Is this going to go on more than a couple of days? And we don't actually know. And then, this was, talked about in passing in that previous article, but masked Hamas fighters seen executing men in Gaza City as the group fights with rival powers. This is from CNN.
You want to do something? I'll save the Huckabee thing for after.
What?
I found the video of the Sweet Home Yerushalayim, which is...
And we're going to be able to play that without getting...
Look, there's no way we're going to get copyright for this. It's so not close to it.
Okay. No, I just didn't know if it was a news report that had a copyright on it too. So violent clashes have erupted between Hamas and rival groups in several areas across Gaza, including an incident that culminated in an apparent public execution as worries grow about the security situation following Israel's withdrawal from parts of the territory. Reports of violence have been shared widely on social media channels, with one particularly gruesome video that was shared by Hamas-affiliated channels showing a group of masked fighters, some of whom are wearing green Hamas headbands, killing 8 blindfolded people in a square in Gaza City while large crowds are watching. I saw the video myself. A possible sign of the brutality Hamas is using to reassert itself as the security force. CNN has verified the location where the video was filmed, the Al Sabra neighborhood in western Gaza City, but it cannot independently confirm when the incident took place. However, it is likely that the incident took place after the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas came into effect, as Israeli troops were operating in the area before that. Wartime damage to the buildings seen in the video suggest it has been filmed recently. The detainees, all of whom appear to be adult men, are seen being dragged into the square, hands tied behind their backs. Some have been partially stripped and are barefooted. Some of the fighters are seen forcefully hitting some of the prisoners as they are lined up to be executed. The fighters cheer after shooting the detainees. Palestinian factions and human rights groups condemned the executions. The Office of Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas issued a statement condemning the killings, calling them heinous crimes and a blatant violation of human rights. The Independent Commission for Human Rights, ICHR, the Palestinian National Human Rights Watchdog, said that the acts constitute grave legal and moral crimes that require urgent condemnation and accountability. But Palestinian resistance factions, a loose alliance of Hamas and Hamas-allied groups, including Palestinian Islamic Jihad, commended what it called a security campaign being carried out by the Ministry of Interior and National Security in Gaza to enforce the laws and pursue those who violate it, including collaborators, mercenaries, thieves, bandits, and those cooperating with the Zionist enemy throughout the Gaza Strip. Accusations of collaboration. The Hamas-affiliated security force, Rada, said in a statement that it conducted a precise operation in the center of Gaza City, resulting in the neutralization of several wanted individuals and outlaws. A statement posted on a Hamas-affiliated Telegram channel on Wednesday that the executions were carried out after the completion of all legal and judicial procedures, a claim that was widely disputed. It said the detainees were collaborating with Israel or were involved in security and criminal offenses, but it did not provide any evidence. Rada said that it has taken control of positions in Gaza City and conducted sweeps and arrests of individuals who participated in shootings, the killing of displaced persons, and attacks on civilians. In another statement on Wednesday, Rada said it has been conducting a comprehensive security operation across all areas of the Strip for several days, targeting those involved in collaboration with the occupation and its mercenaries and anyone who shelters them. CNN cannot independently confirm the identity of the fighters or the prisoners, but the video surfaced days after a reported clashes between Hamas fighters and the Dogmush family, a powerful clan based in Al Sabra. CNN previously reported that Hamas-affiliated Telegram channels said the violence started after a son of a senior Hamas military commander was killed. The Al-Mizan Center for Human Rights, a Palestinian NGO, said it received reports that gunmen clashed with armed men from a local family in the Sabra and Tel Al-Hawa neighborhoods in Gaza City after the ceasefire came into effect on Friday. It said that according to the information it gathered, the attackers claimed that they were trying to arrest a group of suspects. The clashes resulted in casualties among both the family members and the attacking force. After the arrest of several family members, the video showing the execution of several citizens was circulated widely on social media, the center said, adding that no official statement from local authorities was released about the incident. RADA said in a statement on Monday that it was carrying wide-ranging security operations resulting in the arrest of a large number of collaborators and individuals operating outside the law. In the statement, RADA said it arrested a group of lawless elements who fired at security forces in central Gaza and that it detained a number of people implicated in cooperating with an armed militia and recurring collaborators during the war in southern Gaza. A statement from the Dogmush family said that it was shocked by a distressing internal campaign targeting our innocent sons, involving killing, intimidation, torture, and burning of homes with their residents inside, without any justification under false pretexts that bear no relation to reality. The family said that it lost some 600 members during the war and that the Israeli military launched a brutal campaign against the family after it firmly and completely rejected all attempts by the occupation to win it over or recruit it to work on its behalf. What is happening today is a heinous crime committed against a family known for its steadfastness, resolve, and rejection of all forms of collaboration and treachery, the family said. The family said on Wednesday that at least 28 of its members were killed by Hamas after being granted safety assurance to surrender themselves. The video of the executions was widely shared online, including by the Israeli Foreign Ministry, which said the footage showed why Hamas must go. The video surfaced after the U.S. President Donald Trump suggested that he gave an approval to Hamas to police the territory for, quote, a period of time. Trump was asked about Hamas reasserting itself in Gaza. Following the ceasefire, he helped to broker between the group and Israel as he was traveling to the Middle East on Monday. They do want to stop the problems. They've been open about it, and we gave them approval for a period of time, Trump said in a response. Israel has been pushing hard for the complete disarmament of Hamas to be included in the ceasefire agreement. Michael, now you wanted to share something?
So this is our current United States ambassador to Israel on the guitar and the former U.S. ambassador to Israel on the bass guitar.
Oh, my God.
Just 2 days and we are through. Then we start from the beginning. Hashem's holy words begin anew. We all have come to help Hatzalah, and we want to help it thrive. Based right here in God's holy city. Throughout this land, it's saving lives.
Sing it with me now.
Sweet home, Yerushalayim. Yeah, where God's words ring so true. Sweet home, Yerushalayim. Lord, I'm coming home to you. Well, friends don't think it's Jewish.
I mean, I thought at least the singing would be good.
You'd think.
If you're going to do something that tacky, you at least have to be singing on key. At the very least.
You know, it was at a fundraiser during Sukkot, so, you know.
Where was the fundraiser? In Israel?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's United Hatzalah, and they were doing some kind of a fundraiser there, but
Listen, for a group of people who have such a chokehold on the entertainment industry, you wouldn't know it. Good God.
not from that, no.
Good God.
It's pretty rough.
Oh, my Lord. Whew. Wow. Okay. Well, that was something else. Let's see. All right.
But yeah, that was my personal favorite moment of the whole press tour. It's like, come on, man.
And what are they raising money for? Killing more people?
Well, you know, it's that same thing that you, I don't know, like if you've been hit with this, but I keep seeing ads for like, you know, for just 47 cents a day, you can help one Jew in the world, you know, find safety in the Holy Land. And the whole thing is just about, like, we got to get more Jews into Israel. So send us money.
Well, I mean, you know, that's how things like birthright and stuff, I'm guessing, are funded. I don't know where that money dark money came from.
This is like for like, you know, older and enfeebled Jews who are living in like war-torn places.
They're trying to get us all, you know, because I mean, like, listen, when I went on birthright, I was like, I'm not dumb. I know that there's some catch here. No trip is actually a free trip, and like that's at the end they're trying to have you make Aliyah, which is like any Jew is invited to move to Israel. Like that's what they were trying, and I was like, definitely not happening.
Isn't the whole thing about birthright like we're also just gonna get a bunch of young horny Jewish people together, feed them Manischewitz, and hope to create more Jews?
Well, I mean, that's like the unspoken thing is that they send like their hottest IDF soldiers in hopes that you'll fall in love with one of them, and like that'll be one of the reasons maybe that, you know, especially like the Jewish women that, you know, who are on birthright, that you would want to stay in Israel, because like there has to be a reason that you want to stay in Israel, you know, especially at that young of an age. And I mean, I do know one person who ended up falling in love with an Israeli guy, not an IDF soldier. I mean, they're all IDF soldiers, but was not an active IDF soldier. And did end up making Aliyah, but that's the only, I know many people who went on birthright and it only worked on one person. I know a second person who she didn't fall in love with an Israeli guy, but she did end up moving to Israel. But I think that's just maybe because her acting career didn't go the way she wanted. So this was like her second choice, I guess, moving to Israel. I don't know.
It's a solid booby prize.
It's just like, there was nothing about the trip. I'm glad I went, but there was nothing about the trip that sold me on wanting to live in Israel instead of America.
Did you? So I asked somebody else about this recently, and they said no, absolutely not. Like they kept away from it. But did you get to see the occupied territory when you were over there?
No, you didn't get to see it, but there was one time when we drove very close to the border, where it was very tense, and they were basically like, if any soldiers come on this, like, don't answer questions. And it was like kind of like, okay, we're in kind of danger right now. And
the Ralph on a bus meme.
What?
You've never seen like Ralph from The Simpsons, where he's just on a bus by himself and he goes, "I'm in danger."
No, but that was the vibe. There was definitely one time when, and the soldiers come on and they like do laps, and it's like very bad energy. But I mean, there's a lot of parts of Israel that have bad. That's how I would describe Israel. Like if I had, and this is, at this point, 13 years ago, tense. That's how I would describe Israel 13 years ago in one. People, like to share this footage like, oh, it's such a joyful place. And like, it's like, it seems stressful to live there on a day to day. It just seems stressful. I don't know why we would want to live there. Yeah, that is how I felt. All right. The government's shut down. Very great. I mean, what does this happen? That happens every 6 months now.
Only when Trump's in office. Seriously, I think the last one was under Trump.
Yeah, I mean, so just a ton of things. It affects a ton of things, but right now where we're at as of this afternoon is, this is from Politico. The Senate fails for the 9th time to advance the government funding plan. Negotiations to break the partisan impasse remain virtually non-existent. So kind of speaking to what you said before, you had the CNN cam on, ain't no one doing anything. So this is by Jordan Carney. The Senate rejected a GOP-led funding bill for the 9th time Wednesday today, all but guaranteeing the shutdown will stretch into next week at least. Senators voted 51-44 on the stopgap, which would fund the government through November 21st. Democratic Senators John Fetterman of Pennsylvania and Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada, alongside Independent Senator Angus King of Maine, who caucuses with Democrats, each voted to advance the GOP bill, just as they have done previously. The Senate is expected to vote again Thursday on the House-passed stopgap spending bill without any reasonable expectation there will be a different outcome. This shutdown is going to last for a while. I think it's going to be the longest shutdown in the history of ever. Senator John Kennedy, Republican Louisiana, predicted on Wednesday. Republicans
They're making Republican Kennedys down in Louisiana?
Apparently. We're just
Okay.
chock full of Kennedys.
That's a Cajun Kennedy.
Yeah. Republicans, a spicy Kennedy. Republicans are increasing their pressure tactics to shake loose an additional 5 Democrats to break rank. That includes blocking Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer from forcing a vote on his primaries counterproposal, which would fund the government through October, enact new health policies, and put guardrails on the Trump administration's ability to claw back congressionally approved spending. Senate Majority Leader John Thune said that there are ongoing bipartisan conversations happening among rank and file members, but he didn't see the dynamic changing this week. I'm hoping that in some of their conversations that they'll get more realistic, but yeah, this needs to end, Thune told reporters on Wednesday. So far, Democrats appear unbowed unless Republicans come to the negotiating table regarding an extension of Enhanced Affordable Care Act tax credits, which are due to expire at the end of the year. They won't even negotiate with us, Schumer said when asked if Democrats should scale back their demands. In the meantime, the administration is moving ahead with firing federal workers and threatening to withhold back pay for furloughed government employees, though there are early indications each of these actions would face headwinds in the courts. The stalemate over the stopgap funding bill comes as GOP leadership is trying to move larger, full-year funding bills. The Senate will vote Thursday to proceed to the House-passed measure funding the Defense Department, but Schumer declined to say Wednesday if Democrats would help shore up the necessary support. So, I mean, in summary, a big-ass old mess.
Spoiler alert, they will. Name one time the military hasn't gotten the money it needed. Like, sure, they're not going to pay the soldiers, but they already put a provision before they shut the government down that aid to Israel will not be affected by the government shutdown. Everybody agreed on that. The bullets are never going to stop coming.
Well, what happened to Trump saying enough is enough?
No, I'm saying not even, I mean, sure, enough is enough. Last time he held a ceasefire, it was to get enough weapons for them to stage the 10-day war in Iran. You know what I mean? Like, just because he says there's a ceasefire does not mean the bullets and bombs stop going to Israel. That's how GDP growth works, right? Like, we send them money that they immediately use to spend at American defense contractors, and everybody gets paid along the way. So I guarantee there will be no issue with the Department of Defense getting the money they need from this shutdown government.
Yeah, it'll be regular Americans who suffer. It'll be people, government workers who don't get their back pay, who end up getting fired. I mean, right now it says, we're into day 15 days and counting of the government shutdown. As we just covered in this last article, the Republicans and Democrats appear no closer to an agreement.
Isn't this whole thing, though, like, isn't it just keeping government shut down so that they can't swear in the the Democrat who won
in Arizona.
Yeah, so that they'll.
I was just on a call with local chapter of Democrats in Arizona today, and yeah, I mean that's certainly still ongoing for sure.
But I mean, it feels like this whole thing is a coordinated effort to keep government shut down so that the Democrats don't have the leverage that they need to get the Epstein files released.
It all goes back to the Epstein files or AIPAC in Mikey Harrington's book.
Okay, I mean, two sides of the same coin, sure. It all goes back to one of them.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just, the point that I'm making is it feels like they are going to they're going to release them aliens before they show us the Epstein file.
The aliens? Do we have aliens in cages?
Probably.
Are they in those full body bags? The wraps?
Yeah, that's what the wrap.
We got
was
aliens in the
for.
wraps.
Yeah. It was like you can't get shackles on tentacles, so we had to make the wrap.
Damn.
No, but I mean, it just that's like, I don't know. The thing that I keep seeing is they do not want this woman from Arizona to get in because that will mean that the Democrats have the votes, as presently stated, to release the files. So we're just going to keep this thing shut down. Power is going to keep consolidating in the executive branch because the government may be shut down, but he's still the president, Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't see how this is good for the average American. And
it's not.
And that this whole thing is being fought over healthcare. It's like the amount of money that this administration has spent needlessly. The $100 million military parade for his birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Just let people have healthcare, man.
Well, yes, that would be good. Not happening though. What is happening though is the Josh Shapiro arsonist has pled guilty, and I guess we don't have to go over this article, but like he's pled guilty, and the most interesting part is like more footage of him actually committing the arson has been released. So he goes into the governor's mansion, and like my favorite part is like he does start lighting a lot of things on fire pretty quickly, but then he also spends a lot of time trying to kick in doors that like don't even move a little bit for him, which like if I was pleading guilty already and like this footage was being released, I would be like, I'll plead guilty if you don't release this footage because it's kind of embarrassing. He's just kicking doors and nothing is happening. Like it's, because it's not just a regular house. It's like the governor's mansion has doors more like the kind of door that you would see like in a business or a restaurant. So they're a little bit higher quality.
Yeah,
and
this looks like where Beast lives.
They're not giving.
This is
Beast from the X-Men?
No, Beast from Beauty and the Beast.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because he's like walking through a ballroom and you forget, like, first of all, it's so weird that when you're governor, you're basically like, you're living in some kind of like weird, hotel business office mini White House. I don't know. I just feel like I could never relax if I lived in an atmosphere like that. But anyway, yeah, pretty embarrassing footage, but he did plead guilty. And this guy is like, I'm sorry, I know we shouldn't be judging a book by this cover, but this guy looks straight up ape shit. I mean, he looks exactly like the way if you in your mind were like, I'm an artist and I'm going to draw a picture of someone who lit the governor's mansion on fire. It's exactly who you think it would be. So it's just like a weird white dude. His name is Cody, with just like a very overgrown beard and a shaved head.
Look at this System of a Down cover band player ass.
Oh, he does look like he plays in System of a Down. That's so good. Yeah, this guy is like, when I saw him, I was like, LOL, you got to be kidding me. So that, and just, again, lest we forget all the political violence that has happened this year. And, okay. And then what else do I even want to go into this? Bari
What was, did he give reasoning for doing what he did?
Did he? I don't know. Let me see. I can't remember. Let me see if he gave a reason. He's 38, and his charges, they include attempted murder, aggravated arson, burglary, terrorism, and other related offenses. Under a plea deal, Bomber was sentenced to 25 to 50 years in prison.
In a 911 call Bomber allegedly made after setting the fire, he admits that he set the fire to the residence because of what Shapiro, quote, wants to do to the Palestinian people, according to audio obtained by Fox 29 Philadelphia.
Oh, now you're on his side.
No, I mean, I do think it's, Listen, I think any sitting U.S. politician that signs bombs that are going to an active war zone should be treated like a war criminal. I think I've been pretty transparent about that. But yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I really just want to read about Katy Perry and Justin Trudeau's budding romance, but I think not. Okay, so people are all up in arms about Bari Weiss. This is a Mother Jones article about that. I know this is one of Mike's favorite topics. Nice little TV network you got there. How easily has Trump rolled corporate media? So much more easily than he probably expected. This is by Monica Bauerlein from October 8th. Should I start looking for work in Canada? A friend in the Midwest who is not easily flustered texted me the week that late night TV host Jimmy Kimmel was suspended, and I could see why. Sure, it was just a TV network suspending a comedian, and it was also before the president declared that the military would use full force in war-ravaged Portland, Oregon. But to a lot of people who aren't otherwise following the crazy, this one hit home. The most basic American freedom, the first one enumerated in the Bill of Rights, the right to say whatever the hell we please, including and especially about the powerful, was no longer reliable. For a celebrity employed by one of the world's biggest media corporations, and thus for any of us, this was different from the other moments of self-censorship we've seen lately. Most recently, when the Washington Post summarily fired columnist Karen Ataya, apparently for saying less than reverential things about white men. The Post justified this by claiming Ataya's comments potentially endanger the physical safety of our staff. So did Disney, which let it be known that Kimmel just needed to turn down the temperature because people were getting death threats. When a mob threatens violence, it's the recipient who needs to turn it down. Kimmel did end up back in his job, and he celebrated in the most decent possible way. That's good news because the episode seemed to have reminded Disney executives that President Donald Trump and MAGA are not nearly as popular as they think. But what remains is that sinking feeling that bullying works, far better than anyone could have expected. All Federal Communications Commission's chair, Brendan Carr, had to do was growl that it'd be a shame if something happened to the license of stations airing Kimmel. Never mind that Carr doesn't have the legal power to do anything about those licenses on that basis. The mere hint was enough. Was this authoritarianism? Not exactly, if by authoritarianism we mean coercion by the state. This was something squishier. The state just leveraged fear and self-interest to get what it wanted and then lied about it. Just a joke, haha. No outright coercion required. Call it anticipatory obedience, or maybe just the soft tyranny of like-mindedness. As Gore Vidal once put it, they don't have to conspire because they all think alike. Not that every CEO is MAGA, not by a long stretch, but you could tell how relieved many of them were when Trump took a meat axe to anything smelling of woke. Thus, we got David Ellison, the new owner of Paramount and CBS News, paying $150 million for the anti-woke newsletter startup. Oh, what did you co-write this, Mike? The Free Press, and hiring its founder, Bari Weiss, who has zero experience in television, as editor-in-chief. And in case anyone missed the point, having her report directly to him rather than to, say, the president of the news division or CBS itself.
I at least referred to it as a blog.
You did.
Which, by the way, that's the same thing Barstool's called, and they sold for $100 million twice.
There you go. Ellison, unlike his father and business partner Larry Ellison, is not a Trump acolyte, nor, for the record, is Weiss. But he is certainly signaling that what was wrong with CBS was that it was somehow too far left. Weeks before hiring Weiss, Ellison also installed Kenneth Weinstein, the former head of the conservative Hudson Institute, as CBS News's ombudsman. Weiss's first hire as deputy editor was Adam Rubenstein, who edited the infamous Senator Tom Cotton New York Times op-ed that argued that Trump should invoke the Insurrection Act and unleash the military on Black Lives Matter protesters. For the record, I think the paroxysm of recrimination against Rubenstein at the time was out of proportion to the flaws in the op-ed, but also, after 5 years, the backlash against overheated moments of 2020 has pretty much run its course. Ellison called the Free Press one of the most dynamic news organizations in the country, one that resonates with audiences of all ages and perspectives. Their dedication to independent and fearless reporting has won the devotion of some 1.5 million readers, more than 170,000 of whom are now paid subscribers. Mother Jones has more than 220,000 paid subscribers and a total audience of about 10 million, plus an editor-in-chief who has decades of reporting and editing experience and a shelf full of awards and would do a killer job running a network news division. But we were not for sale, so I guess Ellison had to settle.
Yuck.
Where was I? The Trump crew, it sometimes seems, can barely believe its luck at how well their nice little network you got there, shakedowns, have worked and how quickly. But they're certainly running with it. And why not? They don't have the capacity to police all the people or even all the comedians, all the law firms, all the universities all the time. Much easier to simply hint that there are some things that might get you in trouble and leave everyone guessing, and self-censoring. FCC Commissioner Ana Gomez says she regularly hears from broadcasters who wonder what they are allowed to report on. Soft censorship is when we don't know which station isn't airing a story, which TV writer is not crafting a joke because it's just not worth the aggravation. Network television is the perfect target for Trump. He knows it matters because it made him rich and famous, and also because TV news still carries information to a lot of people who aren't news junkies. And just as important, the networks are sitting ducks. Their business model is imploding as viewers and advertisers migrate to digital platforms. The people running these companies are not laying a foundation for the long term, let alone standing up from freedom of the press or democracy. They're looking for an exit, a strategy to consolidate and unload. Nexstar plus Tegna, Paramount, CBS, plus TikTok, CNN, and Warner Brothers. Deals, 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 all to put more media power in fewer hands. From the vantage point of the dealmakers, the Trump administration looks like a business opportunity. They're not going to slow down consolidation to protect media diversity. They'll just ask for a VIG and some light censorship. Surely, caving now won't mean that the next demand will follow, and then the next one after that. Surely, there is nothing to be learned from the stories of the media moguls like Mikhail Lesin, who founded Russia Today and was one of Russian President Vladimir Putin's favorite until he wasn't. And then he died under mysterious circumstances in a DC hotel room littered with minibar bottles. But the men and women in the corner offices aren't the only ones who get to decide things. In the military, they say the enemy has a vote. An army's best laid plans are only as good as the other side's moves. In business, consumers get a vote. They exercise that vote with Disney and with Tesla, and they might exercise it again with CBS or Paramount or whatever they got in mind for new TikTok. Consumer boycotts by themselves will not stop authoritarianism, but they provide a powerful counterpoint to squishy self-censorship. And there's another thing that you can do with your dollars beyond withholding them from those who insult your values. Choose to spend them where you think that they'd be better invested. Corporate media has been on a trajectory to consolidation and self-censorship for decades. Mother Jones was founded nearly 50 years ago because of this, and we are still here because hundreds of thousands of independent-minded readers have kept us going. You can't get to us by intimidating our corporate parent or shareholders because there aren't any. Our work exists because you believe in it. And then it goes into free capitalism. And guess what? While an annual subscription to the Free Press's newsletters and podcasts will run you about $80, over here, $19.95 will get you a daily newsletter and a gorgeous print magazine and 2 weekly podcasts and the knowledge that you're keeping truly independent and fearless reporting, dare I say, the Free Press, alive. Can't afford that either? No worries. We know the world needs truthful reporting at a time when so much of it is hidden behind a paywall, and so we will make all of our journalism available for free on our website and any social channel of your choosing. Read, listen, and watch, and donate when you can. Thank you. I love when it's just ends in a please buy a subscription. They had something going there for a moment, though.
Money, money, please, money. We need money. Money, please.
Yeah, I mean, really crazy stuff. Okay, and I want to talk about Madagascar. I want to wrap this up.
Yeah, what's up in Madagascar?
What?
I'm concerned about Madagascar.
I know. I just wanted to maybe quickly do this one op-ed about Mamdani. It's pretty short. Just because we're getting really close to this election here in New York City, right? Eric Adams has officially dropped out of, the race. It still seems like Mamdani, I don't see a world in which he loses this election. But, he's still consistently doing fundraisers, and events and rallies and all this kind of stuff. And, Trump and other, Republicans are trying incessantly to stop him from winning. Again, I don't see a world in which this doesn't go Mamdani's way. But people are still trying. And so this is a guest essay, an op-ed, Voting for Mamdani Taught Me Why Trump Won. And it's from October 11th in the New York Times by Michael Hirshhorn. And my mom sent this in. So this is a municipal story for this week. Because again, this is like, when we're talking about the municipal election that all eyes are on, it definitely is this mayoral election. Over dinner with a politically sophisticated college friend, I explained that I was planning to vote for Zoran Mamdani for New York City mayor. In full Gen X snark mode, she asked, because vibes? She was alluding to the fact that some of Mr. Mamdani's most memeable campaign slogans are impossible as actual policy. A few are not even good ideas to begin with, which I certainly agree with. I don't think some of the ideas are good ideas. But I think like when we're talking about energizing the Democratic Party, there is no candidate who has energized the Democratic Party in this way in quite some time. And that's something that we need to all look at. Take Freeze the Rent, his rallying cry, understood to refer to the city's million or so rent-stabilized apartments. Freezing the rent has been tried. It helps in the short term, but it exacerbates many long-term problems. Low-income renters would be better served by a laser focus on increasing housing supply. I'm voting for him anyway. Or take free bus rides. Mr. Mamdani has said little about how he'd deliver on this promise since New York's mayor does not control the city's mass transit system, and the institutions that do are likely to hate the idea. I'm voting for him anyway. I'm doing it because he's freaking out the business as usual power elites and driving establishment members of his own Democratic Party bananas. Because things have gone dangerously wrong in this country, and like a lot of other New Yorkers, I'm ready to tear the whole playhouse down, metaphorically speaking. That is the same spirit that motivated a great many people to vote for Donald Trump. You can see the irony. There may be no two politicians farther apart on the ideological spectrum, or two who are less personally aligned. Mr. Trump has repeatedly vowed to destroy the communist Mr. Mamdani and beyond him, New York, if Mr. Mamdani is elected. But the appeals they make to voters and the way voters respond are uncannily similar. I would also argue that they're both people who, at the core, want to make their dad proud. Trumpism, which is like very powerful in the big scheme of things. Trumpism is more than politics. It's an emotional gas main explosion from people who felt unheard, patronized, left behind. The Mamdani phenomenon is a pressure valve too, an outlet for voters to make a statement against the Democratic burghers who claim to represent the people who are compromised by PAC money and conventional thinking. The entire political establishment should be scrambling to adopt the lessons of these two men's candidacies. Absolutely. Instead, many of its members seem to be assiduously ignoring them. Kamala Harris, now on a finally free-to-be-me truth-telling book tour, recently endorsed Mr. Mamdani in the most tepid way possible. Quote, as far as I'm concerned, he's the Democratic nominee and he should be supported, before lauding candidates running elsewhere in the country. Politicians, stop talking this way. In a recent essay, Bringing a Survey to a Gunfight, the progressive communications specialist Anat Shenker-Osorio contrasts two approaches to politics. One, which she calls pollingism, is dominant in Democratic circles. It assumes that voters are rational beings who make decisions based on tempered analysis of policy. Their preferences, the argument goes, should be discerned and quantified, then duly regurgitated by politicians. People are not voting on policy. That's like the number one thing. Like you can basically present like 3 policies. And other than that, if you're going too deep on policy, you're losing voters. Like I know the Gen X voter in the beginning was being snarky, but vibes actually are quite important when you're talking about a viable candidate. The bland mush that results is increasingly maladaptive to a world dominated by social media algorithms. Prudent, temperate messaging disappears into the ether. It is one reason Mikey Sherrill, the cautiously centrist Democratic candidate for governor in New Jersey, is in an even remotely close race with a Republican who is running in part on bringing back plastic shopping bags. Again, like, I know that sounds crazy that like your policy is bringing back plastic shopping bags, but these are the kind of things, and Donald Trump has talked about like, you know, plastic straws. These are the kind of things that just like make regular people's everyday lives easier, and give them a sense of like, oh, this is the way things were, and I miss the way things were. And these are very powerful things. Also, I had a long talk with my mom this weekend. Mikey Sherrill is running a very weak campaign. I actually almost fucking DM'd her team because I was like, what are you doing here? You're getting trashed. You need to be making video. Like, you can win and you have the money to win. And like the content you're like talking about Lucy the elephant while talking under like a fucking elephant. It was driving me crazy. I can't even get into it right now. Driving me fucking crazy, Mikey Sherrill. You should be winning this. The alternative to polling-ism, Ms. Schenker-Osorio writes, is magnetism. The notion that if you want people to come to your cause, you must be attractive. Magnetism contains the possibility that a candidate might change the power equation, that ideas once thought impossible, like Mr. Mamdani's push for free childcare, suddenly become plausible. And another example is Barack Obama's campaign. He wasn't supposed to win the presidency. He was an underdog in that race, and he sold people hope, and he did it well. Did what, you know, is his actual terms in office, were they that impressive? I often don't think so, but I'm like, people remember him fondly still because back to the earlier paragraph here, vibes. Like he truly did give us vibes. He really did. Mr. Trump and Mr. Mamdani are magnetists. People like Mitt Romney and say Chuck Schumer are not. Democrats have been pulling their hair out trying to figure out how to win back young men who voted for Mr. Trump in droves. In a post-primary survey of likely New York voters, Mr. Mamdani was polling at 85% among young men 18 to 34. That's not just Brooklyn hipsters and aura farming Nepo babies. It's a whole city's worth of young dudes, from small business owners in Queens to warehouse workers in the Bronx. Soon after the 2024 election, when Mr. Trump gained ground in Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's district, people on social media told her they saw no contradiction between voting for him and her. I feel you are both outsiders compared to the rest of D.C. and less establishment, one person wrote. It's real simple, wrote another. Trump and you care for the working class. Centrist Democrats have nonetheless insisted that Mr. Mamdani's approach would be political suicide anywhere outside New York. Do you really think, they ask, that a Democratic socialist has half a chance in Arkansas? What made Mr. Mamdani broadly popular isn't his party affiliation. It's the fact that he actually listened to New Yorkers, including those who voted for Mr. Trump. They told him what they cared about most, the insane cost of living, and he built a hyper-local campaign around that, all while resisting polling-ism's suburban strip mall blandness. Do I think that approach would work in Arkansas? I sure do. And in Cedar Rapids or Sioux County, Iowa, paradoxically, the one position on which mainstream Democrats seem immune to polling-ism is support of Israel's actions in Gaza. Mr. Mamdani's opposition to that has aligned him with most Democratic voters. Of course, there is more to Mr. Mamdani's appeal than his focus on the cost of living. Otherwise, the rent is too damn high guy would have been elected president by now. This is a febrile, statue-toppling time, one with some parallels to the politics of previous moments of authoritarian ascendancy, when hard left movements sprang up in response to the right. But it's not quite a horseshoe moment either. That's the theory that far left and far right ideologies often converge around similar ideas in times like these. disease. As we watch Mr. Trump lay waste to multiple generations of conservative dogma, it starts to become clear that ideology of any kind is inadequate to capture what is happening in the electorate. Perhaps it's time to turn the perspective from horizontal to vertical and start looking at politics not through the prism of left and right, but instead top-bottom, the elites versus everyone else, which is a concept that we talk about on the show all the time. Mike and I have talked about it ad nauseum, and I think this is a great, we have to realize that it is us against them, but it's not the us against them that we have been taught and trained to think that it is. It's not right versus left. It's not black versus white. It's not men. It's not, much to my chagrin, it's not even men versus women, but even though I'd love to put my boxing gloves on and pretend it is really most of us versus a few rich people at the top. And that's really what the fight is. And I don't know why we can't focus on this. There is another way, however, that the horseshoe metaphor seems quite apt. Democratic sages have for eons warned progressives that we must respond sensibly to MAGA extremism. After all, it was our supposed excesses, DEI, college debt relief, campus speech codes, trans rights, that allowed the right to triumph, they say. The Mamdani phenomenon says the opposite. What is inspiring all those volunteers, some 75,000 by one count, to join his cause? I suspect it is the promise of finally going on the offense and forcing the other side to respond. Call it vibes if you want, but they put Donald Trump in the White House and will very likely put Zoran Mamdani in Gracie Mansion. And again, it was, I talked a lot about how part of the reason, it was Donald Trump getting reelected that ultimately made me want to, run for mayor, because I had to make good on my promise. But it was also his success that made it seem feasible, right? Because you're like just going, someone coming from like the world of business, the entertainment world, someone, really on paper, completely unfit to be president, becoming president. That did give me hope for someone like me or, Zoran Mamdani, who really only has 3.5 years of assemblyman experience on me, which really isn't much. I would say 5 years of doing this podcast or 3.5 years of being an assemblyman in Queens, honestly, very on par. So this article, this op-ed makes a lot of sense to me. It's, we just need to not lose sight of the most of the Democratic Party, which is just like working class people. And I know they talked kind of about like not losing focus and talking about things like trans rights or Black Lives Matter or whatever those things are. And I think that like we just know, we have confidence in someone like Zoran Mamdani to that he'll make good on all those things. But that really is not the focus of his campaign. Like, I watched very closely what kind of events he was going to and attending, and he wasn't really going to a ton of like like trans rallies. Like he would do LGBTQ things, but like he wasn't going like, he wasn't doing, I had like, drag queen. He wasn't doing those kind of like drag queen events or like, going into that space. He was very careful about what he did and really focused it on just things that were New York centric, even though his past beliefs, were things like activism for free Palestine. Like, he never turned his back on that, but he really did turn the focus on cost of living. Let's get things cheaper. Let's get you cheaper groceries, which is, I think, what the entire Democratic Party needs to be doing. And so last, we're going to finish with a could be worse. This is out of Madagascar. Crystal pointed this out today. I was actually in the dark about this even happening, but this is from Reuters. Madagascar coup leader, there's a coup. P.S. There's a coup in Madagascar. So the Madagascar coup leader says he will be sworn in as president as African Union suspends the country. So basically they've overthrown the government. What is happening here? There's a major pop-up here. Okay, so Madagascar's new military ruler, Michael Randrianarina, said on Wednesday today that he would soon be sworn in as the country's president as the African Union suspended the island nation after a coup to oust President Andry Rahulina, who was impeached by lawmakers after fleeing abroad during the weekend, has condemned the takeover and refused to step down despite Gen Z demonstrations demanding his resignation and widespread defections in the security force. Randria Rina said earlier that the military had taken power and dissolved all institutions except the lower house of parliament or National Assembly. We will soon be sworn in, the Army colonel told a press briefing on Wednesday, a day after the High Constitutional Court invited him to serve as president of the former French colony. We took responsibility yesterday. Two sources close to him earlier told Reuters that he would be sworn in as president in the next day or two. Rule of law must prevail. A spokesperson for the African Union told Reuters on Wednesday that the bloc had suspended Madagascar with immediate effect following the coup, without sharing further details. Suspension by the 55-member bloc carries political weight and could isolate the country's new leadership. At a bloc meeting earlier on Wednesday, African Union Commission chairperson Mahmoud Ali Youssef said the rule of law must prevail over the rule of force. Our approach is grounded in law and dialogue. Randria Rina said on Tuesday that a committee led by the military would rule for up to 2 years alongside a transitional government before organizing new elections. Randria Rina was a commander in the elite CAPSAT army unit that played a key role in the 2009 coup that brought Rajoelina to power. Sorry, these names are not going to be pronounced correctly, but broke ranks with him last week, urging soldiers not to fire on protesters. So coups are happening in Madagascar, it seems. Failed promise.
I mean, nearly 20 years between coups.
That doesn't feel like enough time. I don't know. Feels a little tight to me.
Look, if one of the heroes of the original coup is then the one who's saying, I won't turn the guns on the civilians to set off coup number 2, it seems like that guy always had the will of the people in his mind, maybe?
That's very beautiful, Mike.
Look, man, I don't know. You have these revolutionaries who win these great victories, and then the politicians come in and corrupt everything. It's like, let's keep a revolutionary in power.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I have investments in Madagascar that are affected by this news.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. What?
It's a really good supplier of rare earth elements. Like the stuff you need to like shake out to make uranium. There's a lot of mines like that in Madagascar.
I love what you get into in your free time. I really do. Failed promises. Rajoelina fled Madagascar on Sunday aboard a French military plane, security sources told Reuters. He has said his life was at risk and is now believed to be in Dubai, according to 3 diplomatic and opposition sources. The 51-year-old former DJ rose to power in a coup in 2009 on the back of youth protests. See, I mean, like, this is this not giving Trump vibes? Is this not giving Zoran Mamdani vibes?
This is giving Zoran vibes hard.
This is giving Zoran vibes hard. I think this is the way,
We
right?
have a coup of the young people to get a DJ in power.
We got a former rapper. We got a DJ. We got everything going here. So the 51-year-old former DJ rose to power in a coup in 2009 on the back of youth protests, becoming the world's youngest head of state at 34. Same age as Zoran. I believe his birthday. He's a Libra like me. So I think if he didn't turn 34 yet, he's on the brink of turning 34 because I think his birthday is like sometime in October. But promises to improve living standards and eradicate corruption were never fulfilled. Madagascar, where the average age is less than 20, has a population of about 30 million, 3/4 of whom live in poverty. Between its independence in 1960 and 2020, GDP per capita plunged 45%, according to the World Bank. As well as the CAPSAT unit, the paramilitary gender armory and the police have also broken ranks with Rajoelina. All right, so story unfolding, but that's what's happening over in Madagascar. And that's our show today. Thoughts, comments from anyone? Anything else that you think that we needed to?
Just to clean up, Zoran's birthday is in fact this Saturday. Turning the big 3-4.
Right, the big 3-4, baby.
The perfect age to rise to power.
Is it?
Yeah, if you want to end your political career on a French-bound flight that lands you in Dubai somehow, yeah.
All right. Well, I could see him enjoying that. Anyway, this has been Without a Country. Make sure to head over to patreon.com/Without a Country if you want to become a cutie or a capitalist pig. We already have our dictator, so you can't do that right now. And of course, make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, no matter how you intake the show. Super helpful. YouTube.com/Without a Country. Just click subscribe. You don't got to do anything else. You can also follow us on Instagram at Without a Country Podcast. I'm on all social media at Philanthropy Gal. Mostly that's Instagram, TikTok, Threads, that kind of a thing. X. And Mike is at Them Harrington. Crystal, do you want to plug your... No. She's like, please, literally don't come for me. Yeah, if you want to email me anything, especially municipal articles, but really anything that you're thinking of, it's withoutacountrrypodcast@gmail.com. Make sure to get those tickets to New York Comedy Festival, Slutsgiving, Guys We Fucked, New York Comedy Festival at the Crown Hill Theater in Brooklyn, Friday, November 14th. Again, we're already half sold out. Gash, LA, completely sold out. But I'll see you guys Wednesday, October 22nd in Los Angeles at the Comedy Store. That is that. Thank you for being here. Thanks for critically thinking. And we have that great interview with Brian Silva for you next week. And I'll be back live the week after. Love you lots. Peace. Bye.